MCU episode of Gabe My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who is with me tonight?
That's my secret, Mike. I'm always Michael K. Hughes.
and I'm Bill. I got that reference, Tucker.
I forgot to look up quotes, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know what to say. And so I just went with that.
I planned that one. I thought ahead.
I should have. I did think about it when I watched this on Thursday night, but then when we're recording this on Saturday morning, I did not think about that.
I had that one weeks ago. I'm like, that's the one.
You're like,
good.
I got this in my pocket.
All right, and we're going to be talking, and this week, as you can see in the title, and we're talking about the sixth MCU movie, we're going to be talking about Avengers this week. So we got there. We got to the first Avengers movie.
Yeah, and a phase one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only phase to end was an Avengers movie for some reason. Phase 2 ends with Ant-Man. Phase 3 ends with Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why they do that. You'd think you'd end with a big, but for some reason they do that.
Okay.
Ant-Man doesn't really count because Ant-Man does not really have anything to do with what happened in Age of Ultron. It's just another movie to throw on there where they could have, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's consider end of phase 2.
We'll get there in a few months. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Eventually.
So, first, I hadn't seen this movie since Age of Ultron, and I almost have like an Operation Raccoon City feeling where the memory I had of this movie before, I liked more than the memory I have now after just watching this.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So I was a little not. I'm like, I was a little unsure. How about you,
I
Mike?
kind of walked away with about the same feeling. I think it's just because we've had so much between this movie and now. It's just hard to compare everything. It's like, maybe it wasn't quite what we remembered. But at the time, there was nothing like it. So,
no, I remember for the longest time one of my favorite movies of all time, and now it's not. But maybe I was just off. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if it was just me or the movie just didn't hit me the same.
Yeah.
Well, it's very quaint in comparison to the other movies in there. It's the one thing I was going into it with, because I've seen this movie probably 10 times at this point. I really am a big fan of it. It's probably been 4 years or so since I've popped it in again. The old Blu-ray player. I had the disc. Felt very good, very tactile. So I put that thing in here, the click of the tray shutting. Yeah, I walked into it thinking the big deal with this movie when it came out was how Joss Whedon's footprint, right? How Joss Whedon-y it was. And I remember thinking it was a lot funnier than it is. It's not. Like it's there are quips that are out of place, and we'll get there. I know I have notes on them, but it's not as quippy as I remember it being. And I think, like Mike said, it's just the fact that we had never seen something like this before in a comic book movie, where it finally started to relax its hold a bit and its seriousness, and it's still serious. It still does some pretty, it's still a comic book movie, but it has a lighter tone that doesn't quite translate through the entire thing. So there's lots of stuff in here that feel out of place that, when was this released? 2012, that, 10 years ago, whatever that was. I don't know math. Whatever 2012 was. Back then, it was novel. And now it's not so much. You have Thor Ragnarok, which is a comedy compared to this. Like, it's an out and out comedy. So I think the tone is interesting in this. I think the novelty's worn off on it. I still think it's a very well made movie. I think it's very well crafted. I think there's some very good performances. I think there are some poor ones. But I still had a great time. I really enjoyed my time with it. Didn't regret seeing it at all. And but there's definitely blemishes, and we'll go through them, I think.
It was just weird because I remember just loving this movie, but maybe it's just I used to really like Joss Whedon, we were talking about before recording with Angel and Buffy, and now that I'm, and it has Joss Whedon fingerprints all over this movie, and they just don't, like, I guess now they don't work for me. For some reason, it wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't like, I don't need that stupid joke right there. I know that's a Joss Whedon thing. I don't need that right now.
Right. And that's exactly right. And that's kind of what, but you have to remember too, back when this was released, this was a zeitgeist. Like, this was a tornado of acclaim and applause over this movie. Everyone adored this. So I could see people being really into this, looking back at it now. I was. Are you kidding me? I was enthralled with it. When we first saw Iron Man, I thought, okay, well, this is the movie that kind of started the MCU. This is kind of this was the jumping off point. And I realized that's not the case. Iron Man started this vibe, like it's kind of like Marvel being more of a force. This starts the MCU. This is the jumping point for everything because they become a team, they get together, they have their struggles. So this is a pivot point. And I definitely think this was a sea change in how we do, or how Hollywood does, comic book movies and Marvel movies. They've all followed this formula: quippier, funnier, little jokier, lighthearted, but still maintaining serious elements. I mean, you wouldn't have your Guardians of the Galaxy and your Thor Ragnaroks if it wasn't for the tone that this set. And while I would say probably Iron Man is a better movie, yeah, this was definitely a sea change. So don't feel bad that like back in the day you thought this was awesome and now you're not so much.
Oh no, I'm not. I feel bad that I didn't like it
Yeah.
as much as I did this time. That's what I feel bad about.
Yeah, don't feel
I liked having the memory where this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'm like, oh.
Did the piece of you die a little bit, Mike?
Yes, because I fucking loved Captain America: The First Avenger. I was giddy throughout that entire movie, and this I was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is not how I remember this. I thought I was a little heartbroken, but even the way this movie opens up, because I in my notes I have it opened up on a meteor rock, and I can't even remember what the hell that was now.
Yeah, that's when that's when Loki receives his scepter. So
okay,
yeah, there's a dark army. It's all hidden in shadow and people we don't know, creatures we don't know. I think these are the blood teeth creatures. Yeah.
Chitauri is what they're called. But for those, I mean, I'm a comic book fan. I still don't know who the fuck the Chitauri is. Like, I've just never heard of them. I haven't read a ton of comics, but I read enough that I recognize the Skrull, I recognize the Kree, and the Chitauri. I'm like, who? I'm still like, who? That always kind of bothered me in this movie too. I understand why he went with it. They went because there are only so many alien races you can pick from. They picked one that wasn't super known that just came out in 2002. Yeah. So they're like, okay, go with those alien races. But man.
It almost feels like they wanted someone disposable because they knew that this was their movie and they weren't going to get any screen time after this. So they just went with the Chitauri instead of, say, the Skrull, because the Skrull have the potential to be a bigger story bullet further down the line.
They didn't have access to the Skrulls at this time.
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh.
Fantastic Four Fox deal was still in place. They didn't get Skrulls till later when they made some kind of deal.
So crazy how that works.
Yeah, because they got, I forget when, or they got the Skrulls earlier at some point. They worked out some deal, I'm pretty sure, to get the Skrulls and the Kree to be able to use them, because they use the Kree a little bit in, spoiler, Captain Marvel, and spoiler, S.H.I.E.L.D., but no one cares about S.H.I.E.L.D. So they found use, but at this time, I want to say they didn't have access to the Skrulls. Maybe they had access to the Kree, but not the Skrull, I don't think. But either then, I mean, I just don't care for the Chitauri. It's, and that, like, knowing back now that I know what that staff is, like, back then we didn't know that staff carries one of the Infinity Gems, or Infinity Stones.
Right.
Which, I don't know, it's just, oh, and for those that don't know, the guy that's talking in costume, that's talking to Loki, that's for Thanos, is Wesley from Angel, for those that are fans of Angel.
Yay!
So, Alexis Denisoff or something. I mean, again, it's Joss Whedon taking actors that he worked with before and just bringing them in just to get them a job. Yeah,
I mean, listen, day rate on a Hollywood movie is not bad. You're in the guild, you're acting. It's not bad. I'll take it.
He does fine. Like I had to remember the intro part where you have Loki getting the staff and you have them in like this top secret building where they're working on where they have the Tesseract down there. And if you remember from Thor, where you see that Eric Selvig was being controlled by Loki in the very end of that movie in the after credit scene, which plays in directly to what's going on right here, where he's controlling him to use the Tesseract to open up a portal, and nobody is aware yet that he's kind of under control. I mean, not completely under control, but he's being manipulated.
Yeah, I forgot that was even a thing until you mentioned it just now.
I mean, they don't mention it. They don't show anything about him being manipulated until he gets touched by the staff.
Right.
A few minutes later, but when you think of the ending of Thor, then you kind of put like, okay, that's why he opened the portal. Like, he's not completely in charge of himself, but nobody's aware, and he's not aware of it either.
Yeah, makes sense.
It makes a little more sense of what happened.
Yeah.
2 movies ago. Like a year? Yeah, it would have been a year before this Thor came out, I want to say. 2011.
Yeah. And again, this was also before the time where a lot of people were probably sticking around till the end. It really didn't become a serious thing until this movie, honestly, where everyone sticks around to the end for the Marvel movies. It's a pretty decent beginning. The S.H.I.E.L.D. compound, The whole idea of kind of Loki controlling people, it seems a bit MacGuffin-y to me as a plot device, because he needs minions, and what's he gonna do? Bring down monster faces with blood
didn't do
teeth?
it for me. Did not do it for me this time. Like that whole part where Loki shows up from the portal and he starts, like you were saying, start touching people with the staff. Like I didn't like it. I was like, eh.
Gotta get the plot rolling somehow, I guess.
Well, and the fact that Hawkeye is not Hawkeye for over an hour, maybe hour and a half of this movie, still pisses me off. That he's like, just such a waste of the character.
Well, he stinks. Hawkeye. He's not good. Hawkeye's a bad character. Like, he's not interesting at all in this movie. So at least he gave him something to do, because the only thing else he does is kind of mope around and shoot arrows. He is extremely good at the end. He's very effective at the very end. They really try to show how cool he is, but for most of this movie, he's just a mope. He's a mope with Loki, and he's a mope with Black Widow, and then towards the end he gets some cool toys and they give him this chance. But
and one thing that I realized that I didn't have that going into this movie, but since I've been watching a lot of the MCU, I really hate it when superheroes fight each other. I just don't like it. It makes me upset. And I'm like, it happens a lot more in this movie than I remembered.
It seems like it's always shoehorned in. It's like, we have to make these characters fight. The fans will love it.
Well, it's the playground moment, and that's kind of what I call that. And there's a bunch of them here, I think. God, this movie's so... I also said it's too long, considering Endgame's like 3 hours long. I can't remember how many playground moments there are in this. Yeah, there are. And I called them longer. I called them playground moments because those are the arguments you had at school. Like, what if Thor fought Iron Man? You're like, well, Iron Man would win because he has, special laser powers, and Thor would win because he's a god. And that's what this is. It's just basically answering all those questions you had when you were 7, which is fine. I don't mind that at all. Actually, I think it's done properly. It can introduce a lot of good tension. Here, it's just people beating on each other because it's fun. And I'm okay with that sometimes, if it's fun.
Like, the whole beginning just did not do it for me. And I was surprised, like, with the Jeep escape and the building crashing down, and you have like, put the phase 2 in the car. And I'm like, I know what that is. I remember this movie. But, it just, I don't know. It just wasn't doing it for me. And all the jokes, like with Fury stalling and look, like, I'll be taking that. And, none of that really, I don't know. I wasn't laughing. Like, I remember laughing every other time I've seen this movie. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, damn it, Joss Whedon. I don't want your humor right now.
And it's aged, it's a lot of that humor has aged. It doesn't have that kind of punch anymore. It's interesting. I didn't mind Hawkeye turning into a bad guy for this first part and for first half of the movie.
You don't like him, apparently.
Well, no, that. But again, they set it up as if, like, he touches his chest with the scepter and he turns evil. And I think the intention is you're supposed to say, oh no, Jeremy, oh no, Hawkeye, what happened? You're gonna be bad. And I'm like, so okay, great. You picked the worst chess piece on the board, my friend. you really didn't do your homework.
I guess that's fair, because like he's got a lot of cool things to do in combat, but outside of combat, Hawkeye does not have a huge skill set for the events of this movie. Like, I just, maybe they couldn't figure out what to do with them, so there's like, let's put him on Loki's side for a bit and then bring him back later.
He has his moments. I know he's an early Avenger. He joined the Avengers in issue 16, but you didn't really need him, in my opinion, in this movie. Like, I love Hawkeye's character in general. In this movie, but again, it's not my Hawkeye. He doesn't have the purple costume.
So I was going to say, is that your love for Captain America and the Avengers?
I have Hawkeye's first appearance on my wall, not that far from me, and Vision's first appearance. I paid a pretty penny for both of those, but because of that stupid game.
And the other thing too, as far as the jokes went, isn't this the part where Fury goes, "Put down the spear"?
Yeah.
That actually made me laugh. I actually got a good chuckle out of that. I thought it was funny.
It's the liners at Samuel Jackson's delivery of it.
Well, that might be it. Yeah, I think if I said it just now, it really did elicit a groan, and because I'm not Samuel L. Jackson, so. That might be it. Yeah, he does elevate all source material. That's a very good point.
He is great. I mean, he is great in this movie throughout. Even though some of the lines are a little quippy and things, like he does a fine job on them in this movie. I had no problem with Nick Fury. I had no problem with Black Widow either. I think she is great in this movie. Like the first scene where you see Black Widow after they escape from that building, and it goes over. Loki gets away in his Jeep. He has the staff. He has the Tesseract. You have Black Widow. Oh, I want to say you see the title card of this movie. I keep talking about that.
I wrote it down.
Getting this movie this time.
It's to answer Coulson's question is like, well, what do we do now? And then it jumps to the title card, and it's like, yeah.
I didn't catch that. That's cool.
Very good.
It moved up a peg on my not very high. On a peg. But that whole scene with Black Widow, that's when I had a big smile on my face. I remembered that, like, you have her tied to a chair, and she's acting, weak and defenseless, and they're threatening to kill her, and the guy's talking, and then they get a phone call. The kidnappers do, and they're like, "It's for you." And the guys, and Coulson's like, "I have multiple jets trained on you, and you are building blah 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 floor. I'm going, shoot you if you don't give her the phone." He gives her the phone. She's like, "I'm in the middle of interrogation. This idiot is telling me everything."
Yeah,
and the guy's like, "No, I'm not." And that part when he said, "No, I'm not," it's just kind of like, was that necessary? Like, did you have to do that, Whedon? I don't know. It bugged me this time. It shouldn't have. But it just, I didn't like it. It was too much like, this isn't Buffy. This isn't Angel.
Wait, so you're saying you didn't like when Kat Olsen's on hold as she's very agility.
I didn't mind that.
Destroying people. I thought that was really
great.
funny.
It's just that one little line where the guy's like, I didn't do that. I wasn't giving it all away. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, okay, maybe you should be more worried about the fact that there's a plane centered to murder you, and the person that you have kidnapped isn't too scared all of a sudden. Like, you think that would be more worrisome? I'm not telling her everything. Oh, I don't know. Stupid. It's a nitpick, but
all this talk about the humor not holding up is making me very nervous for Age of Ultron. I'm about to lose all my credibility with our fan base, but that was my favorite MCU movie for the longest time, and I know people hate it because it's so quippy. So I'm really nervous to revisit that one here soon.
I don't remember that one very well. We'll talk about it. I think there are lots of good things about it, but I don't remember it strong enough to say it. But the issue is with this, and that's so. I just had this kind of thought about it. It's got a lot of growing pains, this Avengers movie, and that's really what I should have written down, but I didn't, because it's moving away from the old school style of comic book movies where it's jokey, but jokes don't work. It's trying to modernize the way it feels. It's got some growing pains. So when this is a perfect example, when that general says that I didn't do that, that's out of character. Like, that's not, we've spent 30 seconds with this guy, with this stereotype, and stereotype man shouldn't say that. That's not something that should come out of his mouth. Much like when I did my corny, opening, I got that reference. Captain America should not say that. He's from the 1960s. He doesn't know what 40s. He doesn't know what a reference is, right? So when you hammer these little quips in, you're really trying to squeeze these round pegs into square holes, and they'll fit, but you're really going to hammer them in. And that, I think, is why it may not hold up as well. Again, where it was novel before, it's not novel now. It's actually rather annoying to more modern sensibilities, but some of it for me still was charming. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I remember that one of my favorite characters in this movie was Tony Stark for the longest time, because it's just Tony Stark being Tony Stark, and almost everything out of his mouth when I rewatched this, it was just like, oh man, that's kind of painful.
He is the biggest asshole in this movie, and I mean, I know that's Tony Stark, but after seeing Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and then you see this movie where you have growth in Iron Man 2, I'm just like, oh damn it, I don't need this Tony again. I want him to be more, which he never really is, I guess. Maybe it's just been a while since I've seen these movies. And I don't know, I didn't like him in this. I didn't mind the part where you have him and Gwyneth Paltrow when Phil comes up to him and tells him about that. I enjoyed all that. I enjoyed the whole little date, the little couple quick scenes with that, where she's like, you have homework to do, and then whispers something. I was okay with all of that. That I enjoyed a lot. But later parts of this movie, I didn't enjoy the way he gets. I mean, I know part of it can be contribute to another MacGuffin that we'll talk about later. But I do want to say is I did like that scene with Hulk in India where Because they're all kind of sent to they're trying to put the team together. Coulson goes talks to Stark, and Black Widow sent and talked to the big guy. And she's like, Stark don't trust me. He's like, the other big guy. And we haven't seen Hulk since that movie that wasn't really part of the MCU. And I like Mark Ruffalo. I had forgotten how good he plays Banner. Like especially after watching Incredible Hulk just about 2 months ago, it is so much better than Edward Norton played. I think.
By far. I mean, there's no question. What I like about this new Bruce is when Edward Norton played him, he played him as weak, like a weak Bruce Banner. Just kind of, I remember this sad Bruce Banner walking away, walking to Guatemala. That whole bit.
Yeah, he walked real fast, Guatemala too.
He sure did. He did his.
I'm still mad about that.
I don't think we mentioned it last week.
No, I don't think so. We're just gonna bring that up every single show.
The ongoing joke.
That's gonna be the thorough line through this entire series.
That's right.
A Hulk traveling to America.
Yeah, well, this Hulk does it too. He goes a ways away and without his powers. So hey, but anyway, where Edward Norton read him as weak, Bruce Banner comes across as unassuming. Someone who is reluctant to have this thing. He remind me a lot, and this might be really stretching it, but almost like an addict who's afraid to have another drink, or afraid, or a food addict who's afraid to go down the dessert aisle. Like I'm afraid of this thing that's inside of me. I know how to control it, but I know if I indulge in it, I'm done, and this is going to turn into a disaster.
That's not a stretch. As somebody, like, I completely understand where you're coming from. Like, for someone who was addicted to pop and I drank way too much, it was very, like, I tried to stay as far away from it as I can because, like, I don't want to get back into that same state of mind. So, I mean, it makes sense. Like, I do see where you're coming from, where he is very reluctant to be Hulk. He's like, we're not talking about that. Like, we're not doing that. Like, we're not going down that road again. Like, it does fit that.
Yeah, his arc in this movie is way better than his own standalone movie that we talked about a few episodes ago.
God, yes.
It's insane.
And it's he and Mark Ruffalo is very, very good. He always seems like he's trying to keep it in check. So when he's kind of reserved and talking slowly and quietly, it's him, like you said, he's trying not to touch that part of him. So he's keeping himself in control. He's doing everything he knows how to do to keep from going crazy. And it's great. It's great.
I like that. Like when he first meets Black Widow's character, after he kind of got tricked into going to this house on the edge of town because they said they needed a doctor, and he goes to help. And he's like, "Oh, I see you. You brought me to the end of the town. That's smart move there." Like this, like everything. She's like, "What? And she's like, "We're alone." And then the part where he kind of acts like he's angry and slams the table, and she pulls out a gun about to shoot him in the face, and he's like, "I just wanted to see what you do. There's no need to do that." Like it. I was like, okay, I forgot how great Mark Ruffalo was even when he first started playing Hulk in this first movie.
There's a little moment in this scene that I didn't catch before. I can't remember what Widow says to him, and he says something along the lines of, "We don't always get what we want." And at that moment, he's like gently touching like a rocking chair or a baby swing. Yep. It's like he can't have that normal life that he would want. It's like, man, I never caught that. It's such a nice touch.
So did I really did too. That caught me. I was like, "Woo, that's so good." Whenever he's on screen, he's the best actor in the room, I think. And I'm trying to remember a case where he's not. But I will, if he's not, then I will say so. But he's great. He's so good.
I don't think you're that far off. I think he is one of the better parts of this movie that I did not remember and was a little saddened by when I found that out. But him and Black Widow, I really had no problem with them. And then this also introduces Fury and the Council for a couple that kind of, because like there's like this, I'm not saying the word right, but like these gentlemen and women that are in charge of the government from behind the scenes that Fury works for, which play a part later in the MCU. And they're the ones kind of like calling the shots with certain things in this movie. And then you have the scene. Okay, I love Captain America. I love Captain America First Adventure, but I did not like the whole punching bag scene with Steve. That one, you already got that. Like I like after credit scenes in movies. I do not like it when you take an after credit scene from the next movie and just play it here to give you guys a sneak. Like, no, it should be something different that connects the movies in a small way, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah.
I think at that point, there's like, we know you're going to go see this. Here's a trailer for it. It's
Yeah.
like you don't need a scene to lead you into it. You're gonna go see it.
I know. I just didn't like it. Like that whole part where he's just kind of like, it makes sense that he's kind of upset. He's kind of like, I don't have a place here. What am I doing? And he's just punching bags and breaking them. And it's just, I mean, it fits like, that he doesn't know what to do with his life. Like, it doesn't say how long he's been out of the ice. I'm assuming it's not very long. I mean, I could find out if I really want to. I'm sure it's there.
I'm sure it's out there.
So there's a whole timeline of all these movies, but I don't know. I didn't like that. And then shortly, you have Steve and I want to say, Steve is on his way to the helicarrier. You have Loki showing the lab that he's doing, which again is another part just to move the plot along, where they're telling, oh, we need this meteor rock to finish this thing so we can open the portal and win the movie. I feel like that would have been adamantium if they had the rights. Or it would have been something else, a material that people would actually recognize, but didn't have rights at this time. They're missing all the X-Men rights, all the Fantastic Four rights, which really plays a part in Age of Ultron. But we'll get there eventually when they can't say the word mutant.
Oh wow.
They're enhanced.
So did we skip over the Iron Man when he was the reintroduction of Iron Man?
Not you talking about the AC/DC part?
Well, yeah.
We kind of mentioned the scene of him and Pepper in the Stark Tower.
Oh, I forgot the part where he's underwater. I didn't mention that, but
well, yeah, that's the so because I lost my place in the timeline of this 2.5 hour movie. Because you have the Captain American intro where he learns about the Tesseract, and everybody who didn't see the previous movie learns about it. It kind of gets that debrief, and then we get Iron Man kind of flying around because he's Iron Man doing Iron Man stuff. I do want to say him walking around and have his suit disassemble is very cool.
Oh, yes.
For all the reasons I have stated in past shows. This clickety and
smart people
clanky.
doing smart things.
It is the closest we get to smart people doing smart things.
It really is.
Smart people say a lot of smart things, but we don't actually see a whole lot of it.
This is a very good point. This is very true. They say lots of smart words. That's fine. And then I do like this kind of small, quiet scene of Pepper and Tony and them connecting. We really haven't seen them really become a couple since their kiss at the end of Iron Man 2. So I like this. I like the fact they're establishing Stark Tower. It's this source of renewable energy, and so they're establishing all that kind of stuff. I thought it was a pretty sweet little scene. And then, of course, Coulson comes in and just throws a wet blanket on everything.
Which is easily my favorite Iron Man scene in the movie, and I think a lot of it is carried from the chemistry between him and Pepper.
Yeah.
And then Phil.
And of course, Phil, because Phil just has to show up just like the neighbor in like Married with Children. Hey, and then
sorry, his first name is Agent.
That's a good line. No,
that was funny.
Yeah,
I mean, there were parts. I mean, some of the humor got me, some of the humor didn't. Like, for some reason, when you see Captain America's uniform in this movie, it bothered me so much. Like, I did not like his costume in this movie. Again, the problem is I'm looking at Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, everything, not Infinity War, because I don't like that look, but everything else, like, it gets so much better. And in this movie, I'm just like, that costume doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah, my wife and I kind of talked about that a little bit. I think it's meant to be like a modern take on the old design, and it just feels out of place.
It didn't do it for me this time. It just felt stupid. Like, especially right now, I'm looking at the Age of Ultron costume, and I really like that one. It's not that much different, but for some reason, it just looks so much better than the one in the first Avengers movie. It's too 1940s for me.
Definitely.
I likened it too, because the next scene is when Colton meets with Captain America, and I love how much of a fanboy he is. That really makes me happy. So if he was designing the costume, he probably would have designed it like a 1940s style, homage to that style. So I get it. I didn't have a problem with it, honestly. I don't remember what they look like, and I'm not as fashion minded, I guess, as you two gents.
Yeah, I really like Winter Soldier a lot, so that plays a part. I don't know. I was surprised. Like, I think I was just kind of being nitpicky or something for some reason about this movie. Like, I don't know, but these are just things that I were going through as I was watching this movie.
Yeah, you're definitely onto something, because I felt the exact same way. I was like, I want to like this. I know I liked this. Why don't I like this now?
Yeah, it was really weird. It was not what I expected going into this movie. I was expecting us to be gushing about this movie for hours, and so far we've been ragging on this movie for half an hour. So not what I was expecting. Well, two of us have.
I didn't realize I'd be the guy like defending the Avengers.
I didn't either.
I didn't either. Yeah.
So, and like,
I thought we would just be holding
helicarrier-
hands and spinning around the maypole. It would be great.
The helicarrier were still awesome. Like, I still like that part where when they first meet Captain Hulk first meet, and it starts like they're like, and Michael, we should probably go inside. And he's like, oh great, you're gonna put me in a submarine. And when it starts to rise, oh, this is even worse. It's like, again, it makes sense. Like, why would you? Because I mean, when they recruit the Hulk, they're not recruiting the Hulk to say, they're recruiting Bruce Banner to track the staff with his ability to track Gamma with the whole thing.
Yeah, and that whole scene where with the battleship, flying in the air, it's such, still think it's very impressive. It still was very, very cool to watch a aircraft carrier fly around and then cloak out of nowhere. Again, but that's the sort of thing that when I was 10, if I wanted my battleship toy to fly, I would just go and make it fly. And it was cool then, and damn it, it's cool now. So whatever.
Yeah, even Cap was impressed because we got a payoff to a joke set up earlier where Fury bet him $10 that
it's great.
hadn't seen anything that would surprise him, and then cut to this scene and he pulls out his wallet and hands him $10.
Okay, that was still funny because it's so subtle. It's so it doesn't like take away from anything. Like, there's a scene shortly after this where you have the idiot playing Galaga, and that. Okay, when I saw it in theaters, that was hilarious. But now I'm just like, that guy's playing Galaga. I'm like, this is not necessary.
No, yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, I know part of it's to foreshadow the end of the movie because they're throwing a bomb and killing aliens, but it's just, I don't know. 2020 Mike was like, this is not funny anymore. I'm like, this is just stupid. Like, this is not, especially when you see him actually playing Galaga, like, that wasn't necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. You just said that it was foreshadowing the end where they had the giant missile to kill the aliens. I think you oversmarted this movie because
that's what the Easter egg is saying that I'm reading on the website on Screener.
I actually mentioned that to my wife. I said, they kind of play Galaga later. They're shooting aliens as they come out of the portal. It's kind of like that.
You know what? I think all y'all are giving the movie way too much credit.
Oh, absolutely.
I think they just put Galaga in there because so people can point and say, "Ooh, I know that thing. I like that thing," and then gives them that little dopamine hit of recognition. I don't think that was planned at all. But
I feel like I read that was an ad-lib line from Robert Downey Jr. and then they filmed the guy playing it like after the fact.
Okay, that would make sense. Yeah,
don't quote me.
I could have done without the guy playing it after the fact and just have Tony Stark just kind of spouting off. Like, it would have worked better for me. I don't know. Just for some reason, seeing that guy playing it, 2012 was hilarious. 2020, I'm just like, I don't need this.
Yeah, and that's actually an excellent example of how this movie treats its tone and treats its humor. Because again, like we were saying earlier, it's not well integrated. And again, I laughed. I had some moments of fun, like, oh wow, that's very funny, but it didn't fit. So it's kind of like you're watching a movie and it's a certain tone, and there's a pace and things are happening, and all of a sudden Joss Whedon smacks you and says, laugh. Okay, and when you look over at the Galaga guy, and then Steve Rogers says, I get that reference. Laugh. Okay, and it's just like you're getting slapped. You're getting slapped into, oh wait, I gotta laugh now. Okay, great, back in. It's
like
not
in
integrated.
Buffy, you have a scene where they're talking about killing a vampire, and she makes like the up and down motion with her hand, and everyone just kind of looks at her like, what are you like, what? Because they think she's making a sex reference, and then she pulls out a steak and does a stabby. They're like, oh, okay. I mean, it's the same type of humor. It's like where Joss Whedon just slips in stupid things like that, like you were saying, to make you laugh.
Yeah. Again, some of it works, some of it doesn't for me. So, but yeah, that was not great. That's just kind of like, all right, a bit of a groaner.
And again, you have Barton. Like, Barton's the one that comes up with the plan to how to get the meteor and how to cause a distraction. And again, you see Hawkeye being evil, which in one thing in the comics, Hawkeye was originally a villain that he starts off with for his first two appearances.
Oh,
but it bothered me, like, because he's not in control. Like, he wasn't doing this for any reason other than he got touched with the MacGuffin, so now he has to be evil for a few parts.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess that's kind of how, I kind of just see it as a puppet on a string sort of thing, just another arm of Loki, still, because Loki ain't that cool. So,
I mean, he had to recruit people, but I would have rather had him, like, because most of the people that are with him, they make a comment like, oh, S.H.I.E.L.D. has tons of enemies. I was okay with that. It makes sense that you would be able to get people who don't like S.H.I.E.L.D. to work for you, but I just didn't like one of the main Avengers being evil for half the movie. It still rubs me the wrong way.
Interesting. I didn't bother me at all. But again, I don't like him.
Yeah, I don't like Jeremy Renner that much. Like, he's a good actor, but I don't really care for him. But it's just, I like Hawkeye in general. Not this version of Hawkeye as much, but Hawkeye.
We do get to see his like collapsible bow, where he like thrusts it out, and then
I just want the damn costume. Okay.
Open, yeah.
I never got my fucking costume, and I'm still upset about that. There's not even a Funko Pop of the classic Hawkeye costume. I'm still upset about that.
I feel like I've seen that before.
There's not. I've looked online. There's one, a classic Vision, which is on my wall right now underneath my comic, but there is no classic Hawkeye yet. Okay. You have classic Scarlet Widow. You have a lot of original costumes of these Marvel characters, but not Hawkeye yet.
In a Vision, I know this isn't the place, but I have to ask. So in that game, Captain America and the Avengers, why is he all white?
Let me put my glasses up here. This is after, because Vision dies in the comics at one point, and in Avengers West Coast, they end up recreating him, and that's why when he comes back, he's all white.
Interesting. So I always thought that was odd.
I had that first appearance also, by the way. Okay.
Actually, it was the other way around, because that was the first time I'd seen Vision, so I thought he was supposed to look like that. And I see him as the red, green, yellow. I'm like, what is this?
And then he eventually goes back to the red, green, yellow, and they kind of change the costume up a little bit also later on. But he does end up going back to it in the comic. Yeah, well, he's currently red, green, yellow now, I want to say.
Okay.
And during the white one, he's having a lot of mental issues too, because he's not the same person that Scarlet Witch fell in love with, because he's a different person kind of at that time too.
Cool.
So enough about Vision. And this is also when you have the card talk where Coulson is trying to get Captain America to sign his cards, which again plays such a big part later in this movie to what it does. I mean, I still liked it. I had no problem with the fact that the guy is, like you were saying, a fanboyist and he has the cards. Like, now that to me was amusing. And the heist was kind of, yeah, I mean, Barton's the one that does the heist. You have all that where you get to see, Hawkeye being cool, where he's shooting people. And that part when Loki walks up and he takes the eye thing and shoves it in the guy's face, that just made me cringe still. Yeah. Like, we're
still brutal.
The sound of it, like you just hear it turning and him screaming, and Loki's like, okay, here we go. Like, it is just, still it's got to be one of the most brutal scenes besides his final injection so far in the MCU. I think.
Yeah, guess how I thought about it.
You liked it?
I went, yay! It's all crunching and grinding and squishing. It's great. Surprisingly brutal. I mean, again, another one of those things that's a tone shift that I could see be upsetting to a lot of people. For me, it just made me smile. I'm like, oh, that's right. He's glorping his eyeball. That's great.
Gross.
That type of stuff.
It is so gross, and it's gross, but it's effective. It's not just gross for the sake of being disgusting. It's a pretty effective way to get past an eye scanner.
Yeah,
y'all need an eye of someone who's supposed to be there. It's a very effective. My question is where did he get that tool? Because, like, I don't know. Do you just go to the store and you get like the evil eye removal tool? Where did you?
AIM is what I would say if we were talking about just Marvel in general and not MCU. I would say AIM gave it to him because AIM is one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s enemies. AIM shows up in Iron Man 3, sort of, but
okay. It's funny. I was like, that's a very specific. Alton Brown, when you're doing Good Eats during the show, he talks about unitaskers. Hey, you should never have anything in your kitchen that just does one thing. That's a bit of a unitasker. I can't imagine what else you could possibly do with the eyeball sucking machine. I'm glad he had it because it made for very effective, gross moments.
You can use it as a cheap blender, I guess.
Maybe you can make soup. Maybe it's a good emulsifier. I don't know.
And I had, again, because the World War II buff in me had a big smile when you have Loki when he goes outside and he herds all the people and he's like, Neil! And the old man gets up like, I've seen people like you before. And again, it's just, and they are in Germany at the time too. So it's just like, you went for it.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah.
I liked it. Where he's about to kill him and Cap shows up and saves the day. And
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
That's still, this part didn't bother me. Like even the AC/DC part when Tony Stark hijacks the thing and starts playing the AC/DC song, I was like, I'm okay with this still. I didn't smile as much as I did.
I just wish you had better taste in music. I mean, I'm not saying nothing against AC/DC, I guess, but
it's okay to say something against AC/DC. I mean, 2012, I think AC/DC was really big. Like, especially with the early Iron Man movies, they liked using AC/DC all the time for Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
That goes away though. I feel after Iron Man 3 or this movie, I can't remember, but it was a thing.
Yeah.
AC/DC was really big at this time too, for some reason. Even though I'm pretty sure they were done touring and not really. I mean, they were done making music. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there was like a nostalgia surge going on. I don't know. But yeah, the whole scene is fine. It's fine. That whole scene when everyone's kneeling, and of course you have the one very Jewish man stand up and say, "No, we've seen men like you before." It's fine. Again, that seemed a little kind of contrived to me. But again, you kind of hand wave it a bit. It's the only problem I have with it. It's not really doing anything. It's not developing Loki's character because we know he's evil. I don't like Loki very much in this movie. I thought I would like him more. I think he has very basic motivations. Essentially, I can't rule Asgard, so I'm going to rule the Earth. Like, I'm just going to pick things to rule. And it never seems, his motivations always seem very one-noted to me. And this doesn't do anything to establish his character. This really all it sets up is, of course, Captain America saving the day, and then Iron Man trying to do the same, and the beginning of that conflict, which is the real almost point of this movie, because that conflict obviously continues on for a few more.
Yeah. And just like, and then you having Loki getting arrested so easily, he just kind of gives up. I mean, I know it's all part of his plan, but it bothered me a little bit this time.
Yeah, again, it's just kind of moving it along, and that's fine. You know, it's moving right along. Let's get to the hook, kids. Let's get to the playground fights.
I still laughed when they're on the scene when they're in the plane and they have the lightning, and I think Tony's like, "What? You're afraid of lightning?" He's like, "I'm not overly fond of what follows."
Yeah.
I still laugh. Like, I was still like, "Yeah, okay, that's still funny."
Yeah, because he would know. They wouldn't know about Thor too much yet. Also, I want to mention real quick that AC/DC put out an album in 2008, so that would have been lined up right with the first Iron Man. So maybe they were trying to get some publicity going.
Yeah. Okay. And speaking of AC/DC, at some point, Axl Rose was the lead vocalist in 2016 for AC/DC.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, that is weird. That guy went a little crazy too. So, for those that don't know, lead singer of Guns N' Roses. Which I'm sure most people know.
Yeah, I saw Guns N' Roses at ACL Fest. Was it last year or 2 years ago? They weren't good.
No,
there you go.
You have to go back in time.
That's my contribution to this part of the conversation.
You have to go back in time for them to be good in the 80s, I think. So they're not even the same band anymore because everyone that was in it hated him at one point.
Now, if you want to see a nostalgia act, I could recommend The Cure. Robert Smith from The Cure still has it. Still great. Nice. Still good. Man can barely walk, but he still can do it.
So, I mean, this is when you have Thor shows up. Like, I do like it that they don't know who Thor is really. I mean, like, Coulson does, Fury does, but Tony and Cap, they're all in the, you know, they're not aware. I mean, Black Widow is aware because she worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. And you have Thor, Cap takes Loki, you know, rips him out of the plane, is talking to him, you know, yelling at him pretty much. And you can also see a crow flies in the scene, which is supposed to be one of the crows that Odin controls. Huh. And Odin is supposed to be watching is kind of what it represents.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting.
Huh.
So it's really small, but it was hard to see because I had the windows open and light sun shining and I couldn't really see, but I do know from researching things about this movie that that's what they were going for.
Yeah, man. Go ahead, sorry.
I feel like this whole scene is kind of like what you were just saying, Bill, about Loki's motivation. I think this scene is supposed to be the exposition dump that's supposed to justify his motivation for the movie. It's just because he got kicked out of Asgard, so he's going to take something from Thor in return. So he's going to take over Midgard, not Midgard. That's Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy 7.
I'm going to start Final Fantasy 7 remake last night.
There you go. But the thing is, it's such a petulant, bratty thing, which again, Loki is kind of petulant and bratty, but it just doesn't strike as a great motivation. Like, all right, you stole this from me, I'm going to take this from you to A, get back at you and my daddy, and to B, have this for myself. I guess it just runs a little weak for me. Again, it's also self-serving that I really can't connect to it from a viewer perspective. And it's fine, but again, I didn't like Loki as much as I thought of. I do like the scene though. I like when they're together and doing brother stuff and arguing and that dynamic. There's actually a moment where Thor actually has a tender moment where he's like almost begging him, like, please, come on, come home. Yeah. Come home. Just come home. It's okay. You're in trouble. Daddy ain't happy, but come home. We love you. We miss you. It's like a prodigal son kind of thing. And Chris Hemsworth does a phenomenal job. Like, I think he's really great in the scene. Again, just pushing and projecting that care and that you're my brother. I don't want to do this. Let's make bygones be bygones and figure it out. Of course, Loki says nope. And all of a sudden, whap, Iron Man comes and just ruins everything.
You get another clip from Loki where Thor says, listen to me, and then Tony takes him out and he's like, I'm listening.
Again,
That
doesn't fit.
wasn't-
It doesn't
Again,
fit.
Joss Whedon.
Yeah. But
Straight
it
up
doesn't
Joss
fit. That's not a Loki thing. He spent this entire time kind of going through this Shakespearean exchange, and then all of a sudden it's, I'm listening. Yeah, it doesn't fit. But again, for me, for some reason, it still tickled. I didn't laugh. I didn't like, ha ha.
It was the better of the bad ones.
Yeah, it was neat. I got like a little tickle out of it. That's fine.
It bugged me. I don't know. This whole, like, I know when I saw this before, I really liked them fighting. I did not like this fight between Cap, Thor, and Iron Man. It just, I mean, it makes sense that the first time they see each other, they're going to fight each other, but it didn't really just do it for me. I mean, it had some couple of things made me laugh, like the part where when Thor electrocutes him and his power is like 400 capacity, and then he shoots it, and the part where Cap tells Thor, put down the hammer. Oh, you shouldn't have said that. He's real fond of his hammer. Like, I'm like, But, I mean, I laughed a little, but it just didn't, I wasn't enjoying this part as much as I remember.
Yeah, agreed.
It's just weird.
Yeah, I agree. It's again, this is the kind of fight where it's who's got the bigger stick, right? So, you know, Iron Man does his thing and Thor responds, and then you have, like you said, the lightning strike, and what was actually cool for me was seeing how something elemental like that could really cause a problem with his computerized suit. Like, hey, if you can't beat it, overload it. That actually could be a thing, of course. And it's just, again, a battle of different, just bigger sticks. It was fine. Again, nothing terribly thrilling, nothing that really got me going, but it was decent. It was a decent fight. It's fine.
We haven't asked the important question yet, Mike.
Yes.
Thor's face, is it better in this movie
It's
than
fine.
it was in Thor?
It's better in this movie. They fixed it. The face is fine.
They fixed
I just
it.
don't like Cap's costume, but the face is fine. Like, there's less makeup or something. Whatever the hell. Go back and watch Thor. You'll see what I mean. Or just Google Thor. I'll Google it for you. There's something fucking up with his makeup in the first Thor movie.
It's so funny. Oh, God, thank you.
Bothers
That's gonna be
me.
the other recurring thing for this. Thor's face
Thor's
swap.
face.
Right, so Mike, what rating do you give Thor's face in this movie, sir? I know the first Thor was like 6.1. Think he's up to a 7? What do you think?
I don't know what it is. Here, I'm gonna.
That's good. Thank you.
I forgot about that, but you weren't wrong. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that makes me upset. But that's neither here nor there. But, I mean, it's just like, and then the whole plan that Loki's whole plan is to get captured didn't really, because I mean, he's just biding time essentially.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm into that actually. It's that's very in his character. There's okay. You just sent us a picture of Fourface. All right, that's
the one from Thor.
Okay.
Here's the one from the current movie, or the
Visual-
current movie we're talking about, Avengers.
Well, he is dashing either way. I don't know. I think his face is longer. I don't know.
Yeah,
Something.
Visual
definitely
bit.
seems like it's crushed a little bit in the original movie. That's weird.
Something's wrong. I think
There's
it's
something
makeup.
off.
That's not a very good like scene of really showing you how off it is, but it's all I can find at the moment, and I don't want to sit here and look at that many pictures of Chris Hemsworth to find one.
Well, I mean,
There's time for that later.
that's right. In your own private time, sir. But not while
No,
we're trying to
it's
get some
just-
work done here.
I don't know. I didn't like how they put Thor. I mean, they put Loki in the cage, and and he makes a comment like, I don't think this cage was made for me. You know, because the fact it was made for the Hulk, and they're like, it was made for something bigger and stronger than you. Yeah, but not as conniving. You guys didn't count for the conniving part.
It's true.
Yeah,
Underestimated.
I liked it. I like all this actually. I like Loki turning the screws and understanding that the best way to defeat this group of superheroes is to just disband them. Just shatter their thoughts and dreams. And it wasn't that hard. Exactly. It's not that hard. And
You spend maybe half an hour. They're up here in the helicarrier where stuff is happening, where the movie kind of isn't like in a second act, where you have the team together and they're trying to understand what's happening. You have Stark explaining what Loki's plan was and talking about how, I don't remember he talking about the portal, but talking about an energy source. And when they start to distrust, I mean, they already all distrust Fury because he's a spy. You have Stark planting the seed that, hey, maybe you should go look around this ship and see what's there, Captain. Because he's looking for the Phase 2 weapons, and you have Stark hacking the system. I do like the banter between Banner and Stark where they're kind of getting along with each other like that. That was kind of cool.
I like that a lot. It was like a kinship,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Played
No, I
a
like
big
that.
part in the next Avengers movie, but I was okay with it because you have two very intelligent individuals. So yes, they're going to get along because they both have the brain that can keep up with each other.
Right. The Tony can respect him on an intellectual level, and I think Banner just wants someone to talk to. about his smart things. And I think that really, that's nice. It's a nice moment. It's also really starting to cement. And of course, at this point, we're getting the very first, well, now the second seeds of Captain America and Iron Man's true issue, which is ideology. They have a difference of a belief system that's completely opposite and cannot work together. It's oil and water. You know, Captain America or Rogers believes in sacrifice, and leadership should be sacrifice and going for the mission and doing the right thing. And Tony believes that self-preservation should be the main goal. We should just a little more impetuous, where Captain America is like a plan. We need a strategy. We need to think it through. And Captain America and Iron Man is, I'm just going to go and kick some ass. Because that's what's worked for him. You go ahead. Yeah.
The way I put it to my wife last night is Captain America is lawful good and Tony is either chaotic, lawful chaotic, or neutral chaotic or whatever.
Yeah.
Where he's getting the job done by whatever means, whatever the risk, whatever.
Yeah, he's a think on his feet kind of guy, and Captain America is a soldier. Yeah, let's plan our attack, let's plan our movements, let's figure things out. And they're never going to completely be, at least now, on the same page, because they just have different ideologies. And I think that's actually really good. I think this conflict and this clash creates a lot of tension, and it creates a lot of opportunity for building and for trusting, even though they end up obviously not believing or trusting. Fast forward a few movies, but I do like this. And again, the way that these arguments start manifesting, thank you. The way these arguments start manifesting is really natural and really shows how just disjointed this team is and full of distrust. And obviously, to be a team, you cannot be full of mistrust, because that is no good. So yeah, I think it's really good. I like a lot of the scenes with Cap and Iron Man, and definitely Banner. He's, again, best actor on the screen when he's on.
Agreed.
And this is at the same point when you have them kind of like everything just kind of happening, where you have them talking with each other. You have Cap finds the weapons. You have more distrust happening, and it all kind of, Thor and Phil are talking. And then you have the part with Loki and Widow, where Widow is trying to act all, again, using her female charm to act all weak and defenseless, and Loki kind of falls for it, and he gives them more information than he meant to give them, because he's pig-headed. He's ignorant of what's happening, and he's like, well, I already won. So he starts talking, and I mean, yes, I understand what they're going for, but it kind of felt like, the villain won, so now he's telling you his great master plan. Yes. And it only works in Watchmen, where he's like, oh, when are you going to do this? I did it 38 minutes ago. What are you talking about? It only works in that. Other than that, it doesn't work for me. So it's just one of those things where, I mean, yes, I remember liking it at the time. This time I wasn't really into as much, but it all accumulates in the whole lab argument, which I did like, where you have them start really distrusting each other, insulting each other. I didn't pick up this in the first time I watched it, but I do know, I know more about this whole the series, that it's the staff that is helping feed that anger and is making them distrust each other even more. And it's all the staff that's doing, not just them pig-headed being heroes, and it's the staff manipulating their anger and turning it on each other.
Spoilers for Age of Ultron, but the staff is actually the Mind Stone, so it's kind of messing with everyone's heads, and like even the camera kind of pans upside down to show that something's not right here.
Yeah, and there's lots of weird angles, like if I remember correctly, there's kind of some jaunty camera angles that are implying that something is kind of off kilter. I didn't catch that, and it's interesting. I didn't even think about the scepter being a part of it. I like that less. I really do. I like the idea of these people with just all these different people who are thrown together on this flying battleship by this man with one eye, who's lying to all of them, suddenly looking around and saying, hey, something's not right here, and trying to argue what to do.
The part that shows it too in this movie is at the very end of this fight, their Banner's getting all angry, and they're like, Banner, put down the staff, and he doesn't even realize he's holding the staff. Like, they keep the camera panned up so you can't even see the staff, and that's also such a key point of kind of showing like the staff is controlling them, where they don't even realize what they're doing until, and that's kind of when they snap in, when they see the staff and they look at this and they start to snap and go, wait a second. And then you have the explosion, because during the same time you have Hawkeye is going to infiltrate the helicarrier, and he shoots a bomb, or shoots an arrow that hits an engine and blows up the engine. engine.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. That's cool. Okay. I noticed obviously the staff in hand and everyone kind of going, why are you holding that? And even my brain's like, why did you grab that? But
yeah, it's the staff.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that. Yeah, that's cool. Okay. That makes a lot more sense then.
That's also why Loki is banking on them fighting, because he has a tool to help manipulate them into distrusting themselves right where they're at. So that's all part of his plan.
Okay. Cool. All right. Yeah, cool. Again, it's very clear he's here for Banner, because I'm assuming Banner is kind of like the fulcrum. He's the
uncontrollable creature.
Yeah, and he's the bomb inside he's the bomb, right? Like they even say as he's running a rampage, which we'll talk about in the aircraft defend scene. Yeah, I mean, he's just a wrecking ball, and they even say he's gonna tear the ship apart if we don't stop.
And speaking like in that part because the next thing that happens is when Hulk starts to chase after Widow. There are two things right before he switches or changes. I didn't notice this, but apparently the sign he falls onto says "Warning: Constant under pressure" when he starts to change.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I mean, it's, again, Joss Whedon being Joss Whedon, but I'm okay with it because it's so subtle. Like, I didn't even notice it until this Easter egg thing I'm watching pointed out to me.
Oh, and one other quick thing, and we'll move on to the scene where basically the aircraft scene or sequence, I should say. Did anyone catch the fact when Banner admits to attempted suicide?
Yes.
Like, whoa!
Thank you. I forgot about that.
Oh,
yeah, I think I mentioned this during the Incredible Hulk episode that was a deleted scene from that movie where he tries to shoot himself.
God, of course it is. Gee, it's a PG movie.
Probably should look that up between that and this.
It's where he says I got so desperate I put a bullet in my I shot myself with a bullet, but the other guy spit it out. Yeah, and it's just it makes sense. I mean, you really can't kill Hulk by shooting him. You can't really kill Hulk in the first place.
And it's a part of him. So yeah, wow, I was intense, and it was really touching. Again, beautifully delivered by Mark Ruffalo. Yeah, he's so good in this movie. Yeah,
he is. I've forgotten how great he was when he took over Bruce Banner in this movie. And as like when you have the chase scene where Hulk's chasing after Black Widow, I mean, again, it feels like it's a horror movie almost. I mean, to a guy who doesn't watch horror movies, where he's breaking everything. Black Widow just looks terrified, and she's running, and she doesn't trip like in a normal horror movie, which is nice. She just runs. And it just, I mean, again, like, as you see where their relationship is in the next time you see them together in Age of Ultron, like it's cool to see this scene where they're not like she's visibly damaged after this too. Like the couple next parts you see her, she is very messed up after what happens on the helicarrier with Hulk, and then with Hawkeye, we're going to talk about shortly. Like she's not okay. And I kind of like that because, just with the Loki part, you see her where she's, faking it. But here, she's not faking it. Like she's, getting messed up after what's happening around her. And I could have done without the whole engine part where you have Cap and Iron Man are trying to get the engine running. And you have like where the guys are shooting at Cap and he can't get the stupid lever. And Iron Man ends up going around in circles, getting his head banged all up. Like, yeah, I mean, I felt like it was kind of played for humor maybe at the time.
Yeah,
but it
definitely.
It's like, I'm like, this is okay. Like, I knew it was coming. It was fine.
It's still cool to see Cap jump, like, over this huge gap in the helicarrier and swat that grenade out of the air.
That was cool. That was very cool. I with the Hulk, I thought it was really good. That's probably one of my favorite sequences of the whole thing. I think you guys would agree. It's just really great to see Hulk as this unstoppable force of energy, and nothing can stop him. Not even like crazy Thor with his crazy hammer. And
okay, that bothered me when they're fighting each other.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I was going to ask about the hammer. The hammer should have just destroyed the ship as it went through everything to get to him, and it just like, oh, okay, we're fine. Bugged me.
I think it did. There was like sounds of smashing and bashing as it was coming over. I think
it just bugged. It did. It just bugged me because I'm like, that would have been really bad. All of a sudden, it's like, I don't know. I'm nitpicking right now.
It was cool to see Hulk try and pick up Mjolnir and just struggle, kind of set up that whole. You have to be worthy to wield it.
And that whole fight is fun. And it's the first time you see Thor and Hulk ever fight each other too. And it's. I don't like it. Again, because I don't like seeing heroes fight each other, so I'm okay with it in Thor Ragnarok. But in this, I mean, yes, the scene's cool, and yes, it makes sense. But I was kind of like, man, I was really not liking this movie.
Yeah, really.
Wow, I don't know what the hell man.
All right.
Hey, listen, like, you know what? The two strongest Avengers, so it's still kind of cool to see them like match power.
No, it
was that Hulk and Thor?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are the strongest Avengers, at least in the MCU, at the time being.
Yeah.
That changes later on, but
yes. We'll get there.
A long time from now. And then you also have like where you have the bridges being attacked. You get to see, because you got to see Thor, Hulk, everyone doing cool stuff. Now you see Fury doing cool stuff where he's gunning down people. I mean, they're just there waiting.
Boring. Just Samuel Jackson. Just say cool things and look awesome.
I know I could have done without it, but that's what it felt like to me. It felt like they were just like everyone else has had a scene. Now we got to give Nick Fury a scene, because back when they were advertising this movie in the marketing, you had like soda cans or pop can, or Coke can, depending on where you're from, what state you're listening to this in, that had all the Avengers, and Nick Fury was on there too.
Right. And he's a part of it, I guess. I never see him as, obviously, I never see him as part of the Avengers team. He's kind of like the ringleader, and he's not. He's kind of like Master Splinter and the Ninja Turtles. Like, Master Splinter ain't going out there doing any kung fu kicking.
In the marketing, they went for it in this first movie with him being part of the Avengers. Later on, they go away from it, but I do remember visibly the marketing for this movie having it. Because I actually tried to collect all the cans when this movie came out for like Dr. Pepper and all those type of stuff, and he was on one of the cans. Yeah,
as I'm reading my notes, I think Hulk is my favorite part of this whole thing. The bridge thing is fine. Again, it's just shooting guns at bad guys in black suits, and it's like, all right, well, it's not interesting. Bring me back to the unstoppable force of energy who's ripping apart your spaceship.
You get the Hulk smash plane part right after this, where they have a jet shoot Hulk to stop Hulk or something.
This is so dumb.
It is like, so okay, why is he that close? Like, he shows up those guns have range. He goes not that far away from Hulk and starts shooting him, and then is surprised, and Hulk jumps on the freaking plane and rips him out of it. Like, come on now, why? And they even say, don't get too close. And what does he go and do? He gets too close.
He's too close.
Yeah. Target angry.
That was it.
Is that what it is? The line?
Little line.
Oh, yikes.
Hulk jumps on the plane and tears it apart.
Which is cool. Yeah. I like that. Again, he doesn't... I adore that. He just ripping apart this plane, doesn't care that it's plummeting, doesn't care he's plummeting. It's just this anger that's blinded him, and he has a target to destroy. And it's very, very cool in a visceral sense. But yeah, hey, dummy, didn't you see the other movie? They had a sonic cannon. Sonic cannon. This is also their Gatling way gun ain't gonna do anything
of getting Hulk off the ship, because one of the things that they're trying to separate the Avengers. Like when he jumps on the plane, he never goes back to the helicarrier. He just goes down below and falls forever, and then that shows up a little bit later. But that's kind of what they were going for. And then you also have Hawkeye being Hawkeye again, where he shoots an arrow and shuts down all the power in the helicarrier, which is I think why they have to restart the engine now, if I remember correctly. But it was just like, I'm like, okay, like, you see everything falling apart. We see Thor gets tricked into jumping into the cage, because Loki's already out of the cage, but he's doing his normal imitation thing. Not imitation. What word do I want?
Illusion.
Hologram, I guess.
There you go.
Illusion is better.
Illusion, yeah.
I like hologram. It's fine. Okay. I like the line. He's like, "How many times are you going to fall for that?" That made me laugh.
That was funny.
Good. It's just true. Hey, Thor, you done it.
I enjoy. That was one of the ones where I'm like, okay, this is funny. Like that. And then when you have Hawk and Widow fight, because they throughout the movie they do talk about how Hawk and Widow have a history together, where when Black Widow was evil at one point, or working for the Russian army or the Russian military, and Hawkeye was the one that ends up saving her and brings her back and brings her to S.H.I.E.L.D. and kind of brings her to the good side in a way. Even though,
do they mention that before this? I don't remember even mentioning it after.
I don't mention it at some point.
I think it was after this, when they're kind of just shitty chatting.
Oh yeah, when she's in the room with him.
Yeah. So at this point, she's just fighting the bad guy that I don't care about.
I think they do mention they knew each other, and she can kind of see how she's like, and they got Barton. Like, she plays the emotion to show there's something more. Like, she's showing that she cares.
Yes, they do. They do that.
They don't outright say it, but it's definitely showing that they have history in some form.
And I did like the fight. I did like that she kicks his ass after a little bit, but she punches him right in the face. That was great. Like, I'm like, okay. I just love Scarlett Johansson in anything. It's just,
They're right. She's awesome. She's a very good actress, and she's very good in this. It's a good fight. I do like the dynamic of there are real people on this ship that can only do real people things, like real people fighting. They can't throw rocks and take off the wing of a plane and then hurl it at each other. So it's a nice change of pace where it is lower stakes and I'll say lower stakes, but definitely lower action or less action. But it's a well choreographed. It's again got a lot of agility, and it's it pits, you know, I guess skill set against skill set. It's just cool to see just people fighting as opposed to, again, these giant mythic creatures and figures battling. So it's nice. It was a nice little change of pace, and it was, again, well choreographed and good. It was a good moment. And then, of course, Hawkeye gets clunked on the head, and that made me happy because he lost.
His how does she put it? Cognitive recalibration.
That was it. Yeah, cognitive recalibration. Yeah,
it hit you in the head really hard.
And then you also have, like, during this whole part when Thor gets tricked into the container, Hulk's cell, you have where Coulson gets stabbed. And then Thor goes flying because he hits the button. He's like, okay. And I like that part where you see Thor just falling through the air, and he's having a harder time because he's inside this cage and he's trying to get his hammer to break out like that. I like that. Completely okay with that part. And I had to remember that Coulson got stabbed, but I forgot how long it takes for him to die in this movie.
Yes.
He gets stabbed. You have Loki gets shot by the cannon. He has enough time to say, oh, so that's what this does. Like, you have all that with the destroyer gun. I think you even have Coulson, then you even have Nick Fury shows up and talks to him. I'm like, man, this takes a long time for him to die. I thought it was quicker than that. Again, spoiler alert, he's not dead. But
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
I was going to ask about that. Did you watch far enough in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to figure out what happened?
Yeah, I watched the first 2 seasons.
How he came back?
Yes. My problem with that, though, is that he never shows up in another MCU movie ever again.
Yeah, because he's just meant to be written off as dead, I guess.
And it bothered me because it starts to show you, like, when they did these Avengers movies, they talked about how they were going to do another universe, like, not universe, but, you know, more connected universe with the S.H.I.E.L.D. show interacting with the movies, and it kind of doesn't the first season or two, but then it's the fact that they never, like, even had, like, even in Endgame or something, there is no Coulson. He never shows up again. And I'm like, that is such a missed chance of something they could have done. And it kind of bugs me that it's never, like, he's only in this movie to die to help bring them together. And that's his whole purpose.
Yeah. And it's interesting. This might be a bit of a sidebar, but when it comes to the TV stuff, TV is so much harder because you don't know how many shows you have, right? Because you're dependent on people on networks or streaming services picking you up. So you may say, all right, well, we're going to have 2 seasons to do this. And all of a sudden Netflix picks you up for another 2. And you're like, huh, okay.
Yeah, but
what are we going to do with this then? You know,
they should have brought the actors from the show, like, in cameo roles in the movie here and there or something, or mention them.
Yeah.
They don't mention S.H.I.E.L.D. ever again after Winter Soldier. At least maybe they do, but it's been a while. But they don't reference what's happening on the show at all. Which there could have been little lines saying, like, this is happening, or have someone say, okay, thanks, Fitz, or something very simple to show, yes, they're still talking to them without to connect them. They don't do anything like that.
That's fair. That's definitely fair.
And they were supposed to. I think something happened with the rights or with communication to why it didn't happen that way. But that was the whole pitch when they first announced the show. Which comes after this movie.
Sounds like it would have been a lot better, the show.
I mean, Nick Fury's in the first episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's in a couple, or Samuel Jackson is. Like, they have people show up. Maria Hill, Colby Smulders shows up in that show. Like, they were bringing in a few people here and there. Then they just stopped. I think I stopped watching, so maybe I'm wrong. But
anyway,
this is also when you have, like, the bloody cards where you have the Hulk is gone, Thor's gone, Black Widow is with Hawkeye, and they're both kind of frazzled, and Cap and Tony are sitting in this room, and that's when Nick Fury comes and he takes out the cards and he throws the cards on the desk that are all bloody now, and he's like, you wouldn't even sign them, you didn't even care. And this is what the whole thing that unites them. By Coulson dying is what helps them become a team, and I'm okay with that. Like, this is when the movie starts to enter its third act. Like, I completely can buy them getting completely broken and destroyed before they can join together. And I think this is the same point when they find out about they figure out what Loki's real plan was. I think they say something about he's so vain about putting his name, wanting it to be out there. It's like, oh, name on a tower. And then it clicks where he's at, the Stark Tower.
Yeah. I think it's very effective. This is kind of like, I call this the saggy middle of the movie. It's the down point, but it's still a little saggy. It kind of just paces down. I think, again, coming up, we have the scene between Hawkeye and Black Widow, which I think it kind of contributes to that soggy middle. But this is the downer, and this is the moment, I think, where the team realizes there's not just about us. Captain America has a purpose. Tony Stark knows Coulson, has known him for years now at this point, so he's going to be affected by this. And they realize that there's a larger thing that they need to come together, even if they don't like each other, which again, Tony and Captain America are still not going to like each other. Like that's not going to happen. But
never going to change.
Yeah, no, this is just it. Sometimes you need a catalyst, right? You need a reason or a person to fight for. And Coulson's a good one to it because Coulson's awesome. I was bummed. It's like, I forgot he dies in this. He catches that spear, and I'm like, oh, that's right. He didn't even get to shoot his big ass gun. That sucks.
But he does.
But he does. That's right. He does actually get a chance to shoot his big old gun.
And doesn't do anything. It knocks him out, knocks Thor kind of out, but it wasn't necessary. And I do like how you have a couple parts while you have them talking about the Avenger Initiative, and this is when they finally go over what his plan was all along. You have a part where Thor is standing down by his hammer on ground, and like he looks like he can't pick it up for a second. And this is also when all of a sudden he gets his armor, like his whole suit changes too, which was a little weird. Like he gets the arm braces that he didn't have this entire movie yet for some reason. I don't know why, but they all of a sudden come on. And I'm like, yeah, it's a little lightning. He grabs the hammer, and then you have Bruce naked in a warehouse. And this is also kind of part where you have a security guard who finds Bruce, and he's all naked. And he was like, oh, you fell. You aimed for this building. It was kind of starting to see where the Hulk is kind of caring not to kill people, not to just hurt people that don't need to be hurt, which is kind of an idea where it starts to get Bruce to be okay with being Hulk. And the janitor who talks to him is also the guy from Alien that's the first to encounter the alien in the movie Aliens.
Oh.
Yep.
So I thought he was someone that we should know, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I mean, that's because he makes that comment about, oh, so you're an alien. It's like, I mean, that's the joke of it, that he was killed by an alien.
Wah. Okay. That guy's been a character actor forever. I recognize him from something, but yeah, he's a working actor. Yeah.
And this is also when you have Hawkeye recovering with Black Widow, and like he's still chained up at first. Like, I mean, I thought there'd be a little bit more. I could have swore there was something else that like woke him up, but it's just him fighting with what happened. Like, I mean, that was kind of cool. Like, you have both of them all beat up and trying to face what just happened. And then I do like it when Cap's like, all right, time to suit up. Because they're getting ready to take the fight to Loki finally, stop fighting themselves.
Just to back up a sec, that bit of Thor where he goes to grab the hammer and he like hesitates. I like that moment because it's like he's afraid he's not going to be worthy anymore.
Yes,
good. He failed.
Good.
Very good.
And then during the suit up is when he picks it up and the lightning and all that, and everyone looks awesome.
Yeah, and then it's pure awesomeness. That again, the Hawkeye and Black Widow scene definitely saggy for me. It definitely just kind of sits there mopey. Again, Black Widow. The best part about that scene for me was she's clearly rattled by what Loki did. She plays it off in front of him like, oh, I just baited you into doing what I want, but it actually did catch her. Those memories of whatever her past is. It definitely shows. But golly, man, just Hawkeye's no good. He's not good. You've just been under control from a space demon for the last how many days? And the only thing you can say is, what's our next play? What do you mean, what's our next play? Give me something.
Kill. Don't forget that part.
Yeah. How many agents? Don't even worry about it. No, worry about it. Wrestle with it. Do something. Emote. Make a face. I don't like him at all. The most interesting thing that happens to Hawkeye in his entire MCU, as I remember, is the beginning of Endgame. That is the most interesting thing. Other than that, after I'm not trying to spoil it. People haven't seen it. I'm not trying to spoil it. Yes, not good. Don't like him.
If that wasn't spoiled, then you must have not walked inside a Walmart for the last 2 years, then, or something.
Oh yeah, fair point.
I mean, not much of a spoiler by saying he becomes Ronin, because by me saying that, some people go, "What the fuck?" So it's okay.
Okay, fair enough.
Ronin's the name of the character that when he's like that.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get that later. We will get I mean, I like it when they suit up. I like it how, I mean, again, it was kind of weird to me. Like, why would you go and tell Hawkeye, who you just got done fighting, oh, yeah, now you're good. You got punched in the face. All right, suit up. Let's go. Like, I think I'd be like, no, you stay in that cell there, buddy. We're going to wait a little longer.
Yeah.
Well, they have that little moment of, like, Cap looking at Natasha like, is he really ready? And she kind of nods.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you got a suit up.
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember really liking the next scene where Loki is on top of the Stark Tower. You have Iron Man shows up. He's kind of buying time. Like, oh, do you want a drink? Like, he's just trying to kill time to get his new armor set ready to save him. And I mean, you have that whole scene where it's like, I have an army, we have a Hulk or something. You pissed off every one of them. Like that whole, I remember it really amusing me at the time, but it didn't amuse me much this time.
Yeah, like it's fine up until the point where Loki tries to use the scepter on him and it hits the reactor. It's like, oh, performance issues, 1 in 5 men. It's like,
and he does it twice. And it doesn't work.
True. It's a good point. He's like, maybe try it again.
You think you just would have touched a different spot, or it would have worked the second time. I mean, it was just, to me, it was stupid. Like, yes, it could be bought into like how ignorant and how, full of himself Loki is. He doesn't think he can be defeated by a mere mortal, because like you have the part where he talked way earlier in the movie where he talks about, does an ant have a quarrel with a boot? Comparing, humans to Asgardians. So
yeah.
But it wasn't funny to me in 2020.
I almost wonder, and again, I think I'm giving the movie too much credit, like if it's supposed to reference a previous scene where Tony and Banner are talking about how the arc reactor is basically saving his life, and he's saying that the Hulk transformation saved Banner. I wonder if this is another moment of the reactor is there for a reason. Again, I think I'm giving the movie too much credit.
No, I think that's fair. I agree, but that's actually a good parallel, because my thing is how would Tony know what that scepter does? Like, True. He's never seen Loki, transform people into zombies with it. I like that scene though. I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb. I like that scene. I think that the speech he gives is really clever and well paced. It's Loki's doing the villain thing where he's just gonna snarl and gloat.
Yeah.
Because of his ego is going to allow him to do that and just kind of gloat like, I have you all defeated. And even that little bit where he kind of tries to transform him with his super scepter, it is dumb. Like, he could have just aimed 5 inches higher. Probably would have worked. But he aimed for the glowy thing. And I guess that makes sense. That's a good point. It's supposed to mirror, obviously, when he turns Hawkeye and Alexander Skarsgård, whoever his name is. And then just mirroring, obviously, just framing mirrors it. But I like it. I like that. I get more clickety clank as Tony falls out. Is he get pushed out the window, or does he get
thrown out the window?
I think, Loki throws him out.
Throws him out the window. He falls. He puts on the Mark 2, 3, 7. Okay, I was gonna count up to 10, which is just a backpack and lots of clinkety clankety construction stuff. Lots of Legos.
It's so weird seeing that. Like, when you look at where we're at now in the like end game, and then like it is such a weird where it goes from here.
Yeah, it's good. I think that all of that is really good. It's also telling us, the audience, that the Avengers are together. They're now united. And we're now going to have this epic 45-minute. How many pages in my notebook are 5-page.
Oh, this is
battle.
When the portal opens up. You have people running away for their lives, and
yes,
the Chitauri start come flooding in through the portal on look like speeder bikes for some reason.
Yeah,
and they look very Egyptian to me. I don't know why I got a very Egyptian zombie feel from Chitauri in this movie.
I can see that.
I had a hard time seeing him because they go so fast. I couldn't even catch up with them in my brain. The only thing I liked were the giant space slugs, which were very cool. The giant whale things that were swimming.
No, I'm just trying to figure out where you got slugs from. That's all. That's what I'm confused.
I was trying to think. Honestly, I was trying to think the same thing. I'm like, why am I writing space slugs?
I was like, I knew what you're talking
that's
about.
Why I kept calling them.
Why are you calling them slugs? Like, am I missing a reference to something else?
No, you're not. You're just visiting my brain, which isn't well.
It's not as good as the Jurassic Park ending at the end of Hawk. Still a mystery.
I still don't know, and I'm not going to re-rent the movie to find out. So that's going to be lost to time. Yeah, that was one of my weird things. I kept writing down space slugs, and I'm like, they don't look like slugs, Bill. Why are you writing this?
Yeah, they look like giant dragons with armor on and troops. Yeah. Like, I like them. I mean, they're cool. They're cool eye candy to see, and they give an army for the Avengers to fight and murder. I mean, it's video game. A bunch of shit happens in this that, like, you have Thor and Loki are fighting. Like, Quinjet gets shot down by somebody. Thor gets stabbed in the beginning part of this fight. Like, it's just, which I could have done without. I do like the part when Cap he tells the cops to do something. They're like, why should we listen to you? And then he ends up punching a couple Chitauri and knocks them out. They're like, all right, do this.
Very good.
I like the fact also that it's showing like officers being heroes, and it's showing that what the other people, the regular people, are doing in this chaos. Like that, I like that type of stuff.
I agree with that. The way I had it framed out, there's basically two halves to this. There's the before Bruce Banner nonchalantly saunters up, like, "Hey, what are y'all doing? Hey guys," which is basically almost like Guatemala, but not quite as bad. He just walked
maybe that's
back.
how he got to America. Was that moped?
Maybe.
I was okay with it because I can think of it. Maybe he's not that far away from where he crashed.
That's kind of where I chalked it up to.
I mean, it's not like he came from Guatemala and then 24 days later he was in America. Okay, that's a little different.
Miles.
Yeah, well, mention borders. They don't just let you cross the border. I mean, especially you go at the border like, "Help me, sir! I'm intelligent." Get the fuck back to the line, buddy. You ain't coming across. Like, they're not going to just let you cross it. And if you cross the border through Mexico to America through the desert, I mean, you need water, you need supplies. Like, keep going, please. Stop me.
No, that's fine. There's basically for the pre Bruce Banner walking up, there's four things going on. You have Iron Man, who's basically kind of providing diversions and kind of taking on basically support for Black Widow and for Hawkeye, who are kind of, Hawkeye of course is doing his arrows thing, and which is very cool. And they're also taking care of a lot of the stuff on the ground, fighting bad guys, that sort of thing. They save a bunch of kids in a bus because the number one rule, well, there's two rules in filmmaking. Number one is you can't kill kids, can't kill kids in a movie, and you can't kill dogs. And if you're going to pick between the two, kill a kid. Because killing an animal in a movie, you better have a damn good reason. Because I'm not kidding. Yeah, well, unless you're John Wick. Or the lobster or something, that's kind of a higher art thing. So they save a bunch of kids, which is pretty cool. They're doing their hand-to-hand combat with their armor monsters. I didn't know the name of them, so I called them armor monsters. It's cool because they're just regular people. Meanwhile, you have Thor and Loki doing some hand-to-hand stuff. And Thor, through all that, still tries to appeal to him, which, again, I really think is great. Still appealing to him, still saying, "Brother, we don't have to do this. Like, this is not the way to rule somebody." A very neat moment is also when Loki stabs him, kind of gets close and gives him that stab. That is very Shakespearean. That is a very Loki Asgardian thing to do. And I really dug it.
When I saw the scene, I thought of you and Shakespeare. I'm like, yep, he's going to make a comment about this. Forsooth. And then finally you have Captain America. This is the moment where he becomes the leader of the Avengers. This is it. Because he steps into the role, he's directing, and there's a moment right after Banner shows up. He's telling this person go this way. He's again directing the cops, like you said. He's getting people to safety. He's just the hero. He is an archetypical hero and a leader, and it's very cool. I want to mention first, you get the Hulk punch where the Hulk is like, "I'm always angry," and punches that slug in quotations in the face, and then you have that real famous scene of the Circle Avengers where they're all standing in the circle and then the camera just pans around them, which was not as cool as I remember it happening.
We call that trailer bait.
Yeah, I mean, they do it in Age of Ultron too, but this one's still better.
And they play the song and everything, like really just hammer it home. It's the hero turn.
That score is still fantastic though. Like every time it plays, I was like, yeah.
Yes, it is pretty iconic. And you're right, I did forget about Hulk going on his smashing spree, because then he shows up and they're like, I think Captain America says, do you want to wake him up or bring him out? Hulk smash. And then he just goes full Hulk. And at the time, I'm like, God, that runs antithesis to the character, because I thought he couldn't control it. But maybe since, like you said, Michael, that he was able to steer himself away from, a populated area into like a farm or something.
In this part, he wasn't transformed out of anger. He was transformed by choice with a goal to stop these aliens and to crush something. Right. So then Hulk has more. Usually when Hulk is transformed, because somebody's trying to kill him or he's being provoked, so then he attacks what's provoking him. In this case, he's attacking something else because nothing's exactly provoking him.
Typically, it's a reaction. This time it's more, like you said, like a choice.
Yeah.
And I guess
he's always angry.
That's interesting. That's kind of where I landed, was like, I guess he's always angry, but he said it. He goes, "I'm always angry."
Shouldn't he always be changing then? Like, I don't know.
Well, I would say it's kind of like he's always angry implies to me that he, instead of getting himself to a Hulk mode, he's going to let down the defenses and let Hulk come out. That's how I got it. Yeah,
like he's always fighting against it.
right, exactly. He's always got his guard up against it, and he's like, I'll just let the guard down now and allow myself to become this creature that still has a little bit of agency. And like you said, Michael, has a goal, has enemies to attack. It's not just random things.
Well,
So
I mean, that helps focus Hulk is when you have him you give him a mission to go do something like that, like just go crush these things. That's no problem. That's kind of how Hulk is. So it worked for me. And in my notes, I just have fighting was a note because you just have tons of action scenes happening that most don't need to be referenced.
yeah. Is there any ones that you guys kind of, because after Hulk transforms, I mean, the biggest scene, well, the biggest scene we have to talk about, of course, is Hulk and Loki, which is the celebrated scene of this movie. Most people, when they think of the Avengers, honestly probably think of this. And this is where, of course, when Hulk confronts Loki, Loki starts going into one of his Shakespearean drama monologues, and Hulk grabs him and smashes him like Donatello from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time game. Essentially, what
That's pretty good.
That is really good.
Essentially, that's what that is, which is glorious. And it's a great movie. It's a great movie. It's a great scene. The CG doesn't quite hold up. And there's a few holes in the CG in this movie. You can definitely tell it's 8 years old.
And
Yeah.
I
mean, there wasn't anything on the level of Cap riding in the car in First Avenger, but
No.
totally agree.
Puny head Cap, no.
Oh, the couple of quick, like one scene that happened, like you have where Widow ends up getting the ride where she like jumps onto one of the motorcycle thingies in the air and ends up like stabbing the guy to control him. Like that was a little weird to me. And I didn't catch this in the first time I watched this movie. She also has shocker things in her fist. Like it's much more obvious in the second movie or Age of Ultron, but this movie, when she punched people, she's shocking them too to kind of help.
Yeah, the Widow's
really
Kiss is what they call it, I think.
What is it?
Oh.
Widow's Kiss.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's pops up in a lot of the games that she's
I think
played.
you're right. I just didn't know.
Well, so in this whole
Also
section,
a drink.
Oh, go ahead.
By the way, Widow's Kiss is also a alcoholic beverage. Keep going. Sorry.
Well then,
Important information.
yes. In case you're thirsty as you listen to the show. So, what do you guys think of the actual action itself? Like, this is a 30-minute. I didn't clock it, but it's like a half an hour action scene. From the beginning when they first turn on the space laser. By the way, one of the first space lasers in the MCU. There's a lot of them. We're always fighting
space.
the blue beam into space. We're always trying to fight a blue beam into space. But which way were you guys tired? Were you engaged at all? Was it kind of like, let's get this thing over with? Where were you at?
I felt like this was the best part of the movie, and it's maybe it's just because it's when the Avengers are finally the Avengers and living up to that title, where everyone's just kind of kicking ass their own way. And I do want to point out, I caught it when you were kind of running down the events of the first half of the fight. You said something Hawkeye did was cool. I just want to let you know that. I don't know if you caught it.
He does a few decent things, and that's kind of one of the big themes for me is everyone gets a chance. Everyone gets their moment to do something good or do something cool. Hawkeye, it's cool. Capable people are fun to watch, and he's obviously a very good archer, and he has all these cool arrow toys that are perfectly matched for the situation that he happens to be in, because the writers know that. The writers are like, nobody knows what's really in that quiver. We can put anything we want in there. Is there a problem with the scene? Let Hawkeye shoot an arrow at it. It'll be fine. They'll figure it out and blow up. It's good.
I think his high points are when he no-looks, shoots the Chitauri guy flying behind him, and then when Loki's riding by and he shoots the arrow and Loki catches it and then it explodes.
That's good. Yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
Very good. Yeah.
And like the whole, like you have, my wife had made this comment. We were watching the movie. She's like, he better run out of arrows. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't, because he actually does run out of arrows.
Mm-hmm.
But she was getting annoyed at that.
Yeah, that's fair. Right? What do you get? This bottomless pit? Come on now.
And then you also have a part which I remember laughing a lot more when I saw this movie back in the day, where Hulk and Thor are fighting together in one scene, and at the end of it, Hulk just punches Thor. He goes flying, and I vividly remember in theater when I saw this, everybody started laughing.
Yeah.
Well, when I watched it in 2020, I did not laugh. I went, oh, I knew it was coming, so maybe that played a part. And I'm like, oh, okay, he's gonna punch him. Oh, there we go.
It just seems so unnecessary. Like, it's just to show the Hulk is like the bad boy of the group or whatever. They just, I don't know. I didn't need it.
Yeah, very, very unnecessary. I agree with that.
And then throughout the fighting, because I mean, pretty much one thing I also like is they're kind of losing. Like they're not getting to the portal. They're not stopping these Chitauri from invading. And this is when you have the council that I kind of mentioned earlier, who ends up saying, okay, we're gonna nuke Manhattan. That's how we're gonna fix this problem. Which it makes sense. I mean, you have a governing body like that that's gonna be like, yeah, just nuke them, blow everything up. That'll solve our problem because that works.
We get the best quip, the best line in the movie.
Yep.
Is the council saying that they have made a decision, and Fury says, I recognize that the council has made a decision. The fact that it's a stupid-ass decision, I've elected to ignore it. Best line.
That does have a lot of snakes on the plane energy to it, doesn't it? Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
I'm tired of these motherfucking nukes on my motherfucking plane. Yeah.
It's a good one. I love it.
I do like it when he runs out onto the deck and shoots the jet down with a freaking RPG. Like I'm like, and then you see another one fly off. Yeah.
He killed that guy.
Oh yeah, that guy did.
And then, I like it that it's all for nothing because another plane just leaves right after that, and with a nuke instead. Like he shot the wrong plane or something.
And he starts firing his 9mm at it. Like, hey,
that was stupid. Like he doesn't fire it. He pulls it out, and he's about to fire it.
Oh, he doesn't even shoot it.
No, but it is stupid.
That is stupid. Yeah, it's like, well, let me pull out my sidearm.
The only tool you have is a hammer.
That's a good point.
It's just like, I mean, I understand what they were going for, but it just like, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I was not in the right mood when I watched this movie.
No, it's all right. I'm interested. This is interesting. Before we get to that, I will just comment on the 30-minute action scene. It did wear me down after a while. I think they do a really good job of changing up the locations, though. Or I think having Captain America in that bank.
Oh, that's my highlight of the fight.
Yeah, it is phenomenal, and not only is it well executed, it's different than the outside flying around Manhattan, destroying buildings, and which still kind of just gives me, I don't say weird. It makes me feel weird when I see Manhattan. I used to live in New York.
Oh, okay.
So I lived in Manhattan for about 4 years. So it's still weird for me to like envision people smashing into buildings and buildings falling, and it's not real. It's kind of sort of a 9/11 thing. Like because I grew up in New Jersey and like 20 minutes from New York, so I remember that when all that happened, and I wasn't there, so trust me, I'm not trying to misappropriate poor me who's in the middle of the rubble. But it's just an interesting thing when I see again giant space slugs destroying buildings and knocking out windows and stuff. But after a while, those buildings look the same. Okay, we got more buildings to crush and more buildings to smash. And then you go into this bank and you have this tight action sequence, which is extremely effective, saving the day. Really well done. So I think they do enough variety. It didn't tire me out. I thought it was actually quite good, entertaining, and it has lots of pretty neat moments in here as well. Just explosions get tiring. After 30-minute explosions, you're like, I don't need any more explosions. Too much.
It's not Michael Bay.
Yeah, and it doesn't end with a giant explosion, which is nice. Well, I guess it does. I guess it kind of.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's only big as a big nuclear one, I guess, huh? Well, within space, though, you didn't even hear it. It's fine. It's just kind of sometimes the bombast gets overwhelming and just exhausting.
I mean, I
remember Ultron being a lot of that. I remember Ultron having a lot of exhausting battle stuff.
You guys are making me so nervous to go back.
Oh, it ain't gonna be pretty. Like I watched Age of Ultron when I got Disney Plus because I hadn't seen it since it came out.
Oh no,
it's not gonna be pretty.
I might watch it after we finish recording this, just so I can prepare myself.
You need to wait. We want you to go in completely excited, like you are right now. So you have no idea what's coming.
Just giddy for the adventure ahead. Just
like how I came into this movie, so excited to watch it and go, wait a second. It's just like Operation Raccoon City. I don't want to rewatch this. Let me go back.
Yeah, thanks for that, by the way. For those who don't know, go back and listen to that episode of Games Time Long Found.
37? I don't remember. Somewhere in there.
Yeah, 30. Yeah, somewhere around there. Somewhere in the 30s.
It's sad how many of those are in my memory. Like I can kind of almost base what numbers they are. I feel like I'm the original when I used to play original Pokemon. I go, yeah, that's number 10 or that's number 112. Like I used to be able to do that. Not anymore. But okay, so. Like when the whole part when they launch the nuke and Tony realizes that they have to get this nuke and raise it up into the black hole to stop the Chitauri, I'm okay with that. It is a very touching scene where he tries to call Pepper Potts and nobody answers because she's busy watching TV and watching what's happening. Like we're watching the Dark Knight movie where everyone has to watch the TV. They do that constantly in that movie for some reason, but it's very touching. Like it makes you think maybe he's not going to come out of this alive. Maybe this is going to be the end of Tony. I mean. again, it's not spoiler alert, but you don't know that going into this movie. Like when he flies that nuke up, he doesn't know he's going to come out of this or not. And it's a very touching scene where he's really sacrificing himself for the greater good, which is not, I guess, something he kind of does, but he really does it in this part. And it is badass. He flies a nuke in there. He ends up losing power, falls out of the portal. You have Scarlett Johansson, character Black Widow, who is on top of the building, talks to Eric Selvig, who was been manipulated all this time, but he put a fail safe into the generator where by taking the staff, she's able to stab the generator and turn it off.
Right.
And it's cool. Like it's a very touching scene where he's falling through the air and they're shutting the generator down and the nuke goes off and destroys the Chitauri, but somehow Thanos is just fine. And it's very badass.
So you're saying, okay, so yeah, so as far as that whole sequence goes when they launch a nuke, launching a nuke is stupid. It's a stupid idea made by stupid people. It's stupid. Why would you do that? It makes no sense. I think I agree with you. I agree that it's a very touching moment when Tony finally decides, you know what, I'm going to be selfless. I'm going to be a hero and truly sacrifice myself. And I think this is a moment, too, where Captain America realizes there's a piece of heroism in Tony that he can at least be okay with. And again, we'll see as the movies go on, but, that doesn't become the case. But I really think that's a moment when Tony turns a corner and truly kind of separates a bit from his egotistical side. He's been working up to this over the course of the last few movies, and this is a nice culmination of it. I forgot about this completely, and they shoot the nuke. I'm like, how did they get rid of the nuke? And then I see the space portal. I'm like, space portal. Gotcha. Great. Yeah, it's very effective and it's very tense. Even though, of course, I know Iron Man's going to be fine, I still found myself tense. Like, ooh, okay, this is wow. All right, this is something else. This is going to happen. And hooray! He comes back down. He crashes to Earth. I think he wakes up when Hulk yells at him. I think.
Yeah.
Is that what happens?
Yeah,
Okay,
everyone's kind of standing over him, and he's not breathing. Then Hulk just yells, and he snaps out of it.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, so then he survives. He talks about shawarma, and then
No.
we everyone just. I don't mind. It's funny. This is what it is, and I should probably save this for the afterthoughts. I will save this for the afterthoughts. I'm going to write them down. But yeah, I think that's a very effective end. It closes the space portal, and we get to the aftermath.
We have and the way they capture Loki, it's another cool scene. I mean, again, it's a cinema, advertising scene kind of in a way where they're all standing together. Hawkeye's pointing the arrow right at his face, and I was like, Hawkeye would have just let that arrow go at this point.
He does have that great line earlier of when they're going to battle, and he's like, "Well, I guess if I put an arrow through Loki's eye socket, I'd sleep better at night."
Yeah,
I like that one.
That's Hawkeye is a murderer, so it's not surprising.
Yeah,
like when you have people, celebrating, it's kind of a cool scene. It makes sense. Everyone's all cheering, oh yeah, we won. The city's completely in ruins, but we won.
Get that scene with Beth, the waitress, everyone's favorite character.
What is she? She's from a TV show or something at this time. My wife recognized her.
Yeah, that's Ashley Johnson, who most gamers would know her as the voice of Ellie from The Last of Us.
Oh,
but yeah, she's done a lot of stuff since this movie.
Oh, I see. Is it when you said Ellie? Before you said Ellie, I was thinking Ellie and Xenogears. But,
wow.
I was playing Xenogears right before we did this recording, by the way. So I'm trying to finish it.
And so
she's in Blind Spot.
And she's the one. She's the one that Captain America rescues, and she kind of gives that little speech on TV.
Yeah.
Talking about how the superheroes are to blame for all this, and she's like, "Well, Captain America saved my life, and he's a hero."
It's very good. Again, of course, we have our Stan Lee cameo, which was one of the weaker ones.
Yeah,
it is weak. I forgot about it. It goes by. He's an old guy in the park playing chess. For someone that's from New York, do people do that in New York? Do there old people just sitting there playing chess in New York?
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, that's actually an honest to goodness thing. I didn't spend a ton of time in Central Park, but yeah, there's definitely built-in chess boards that people can congregate around and play chess. Yes, that is a thing.
Okay, I was always curious, and I've seen it in a lot of movies and things. I've never been to New York myself, so I had to ask that question. Okay, I like that. All right, and this is like when Loki gets taken to Asgard, and I swear the suit they put him in reminds me of Hannibal Lecter every time. He has like he's handcuffed, and then they use the Tesseract to teleport him back. And I like that part where you have them all kind of together, and it's a little weird to me for some reason, but they're together. I mean, Thor leaves. I think Cap's on a motorcycle, and I forget who's in the car with Tony. Is that?
It's Banner.
Banner.
Okay,
yeah.
Banner's in the car, and then Scarlett Johansson or Black Widow and Hawkeye go wherever they go in a different car or something. I mean, and I like how they're like the council, like, oh, so where are the Avengers? They're going their separate ways. They deserve a vacation, but when we need them, they'll be back. Like, again, it works, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I like the idea of them parting ways. It's kind of this, parting ways, going off on their own thing, and kind of just doing their own thing. That's how this group kind of works. They're not always going to be in the lair together. It's not like, again, I've never seen Justice League, but I have vague memories of cartoons where they all be inside some ice castle and sitting there making breakfast with each other. No, they're going to come together when bad things happen, and then they will leave, and then they will assemble.
Well, spoiler alert.
So
that doesn't happen in this Justice League movie that came out because it doesn't do that.
Am I wrong on that? That is a Justice League thing, right? There's like some sort of ice castle.
Yeah. You're talking about the old, like the ice castles has the Superman's fortress of South.
Yeah.
But they do have a base. Like if you're talking about the old cartoon with Aquaman in it and the Wonder Twins, they go,
the Hall of Justice.
Yeah, I like the idea. It's Avengers Assemble, and they're not going to be, and it's also implying that they're not going to be controlled. They're not a standby military force. When we need them, we'll get them, and that's basically the vibe of it. And I think that's very good. And it's very sweet to see people say goodbyes after long hours and days of trauma. So I'm into it.
It's a good ending to the movie too. It's a good way to wrap up the story.
And the final Stark Tower is now the Avengers Tower is a very nice touch. I do like that.
Everything is broken but the A.
Yeah.
It wasn't my choice. But they never use the Avengers Tower though, because the next time that you see the Avengers,
it's an Age of Ultron.
Yeah, but they're kind of in their own base too in Age of Ultron. We'll talk about that in a few months.
It's a giant tower with your name on it. You don't really want that to be your complete base of operations. That's more of the figurehead.
And this is all, and then you have the two after credit scenes. Like the one is where you have Thanos, and you have the little guy from earlier who gave Loki the staff, and he's like, to fight the Avengers is to court death. And Thanos just turns at the camera, who looks completely different than the Thanos we get in 7 years from now, and he just smiles. And the thing that, for those that don't know, the reference is because in the comics, the reason why Thanos goes and gets the Infinity Gauntlet and everything he does is not to bring balance to the world, but it is to court death because he is in love with death, which is the embodiment of death is like a female type character,
like an actual person in the.
Well, they didn't go that route, but that's what that reference. That's what that little one line is a reference to, which they completely went a whole different route.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, to court death. Okay, that would make lots of sense. Okay.
He's in love with her, but he can't be with her, and to win her love, he's gonna kill everybody.
Interesting. That's cool. Okay. Yeah, man. Oh boy, that that Thanos does not hold up. Boy, oh boy, CGI has improved.
No, it's bad.
Wow, wowie zowie. But yeah, I remember again. That was one of those when I saw in theaters. Okay, who's Purple Face? I don't know who these people are. Great. I'm sure something cool is gonna happen. And then everyone in the theater around me is like, "Oh, Thanos!" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." But now I know. And that's cool. It's a nice little scene. And then the final end credit scene is just 7 of them or so eating shawarma.
With no lines.
No lines. I kind of love it, kind of hate it.
I hate it. It's fine.
It averages out to fine. Yes.
The point of it is an insult to the watcher, because the whole joke is that the whole reason that we even have this thing is because of the reason we had Avengers movie. I should say not this thing. The Avengers movie is because of people reading or seeing the after credit scene and getting excited for the movie, and that's how they teased it. So in the end of Avengers, they don't tease Phase 2; they just tease them sitting there eating. Yeah, and that's what it was.
So, I would argue that this is kind of like the cool down. It's intended to be funny. It's intended to be a scene that goes on too long. That's the joke.
I think it was also filmed later too.
Yeah, I want to say it was like filmed the night of the premiere.
Really?
Yeah, and then they kind of tacked it on for the theatrical release.
How funny. Okay. I mean, fine. Still.
It feels like it's kind of homage to Tony's line of, "Hey, let's not come in tomorrow. Let's take a day." It's like they earn this moment of just relaxing
and eating food. Yeah, eating just, and there's no interaction. And again, everyone in the audience is sitting there waiting for someone to do something, and nothing happens. So every little movement feels like it's worthwhile. Like I think Bruce kind of looks up at his sandwich like, huh, like one of those kind of just gives a look and eats it, or Thor kind of dives in at the end. Why do I know these things? Because I'm watching intently, waiting for something to happen. And it's a joke. Like it's a joke ending. It's a joke thing, and it's fine.
It's not the biggest. It's not the biggest FU stinger in the MCU. That belongs to Spider-Man: Homecoming, which we'll get to.
Oh, I don't even know that. So don't spoil it, please. Don't spoil it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I've never.
It's definitely an FU to the audience, though.
I can't remember it, so it'll be interesting when we get there. I have
That's
no
it.
recollection.
The movie's over. Yay!
Yeah.
Oh, 2 hours. As far as this recording, I suppose.
Yeah, hour and
Better than I
51.
thought. Nice.
So not bad. Well, it's. I think now we kind of wrapped up the movie. We did. None of us watched I'm assuming none of us watched that little short that came along with this Blu-ray because I completely forgot about it. Just
I totally forgot until this morning.
That's okay.
I watched it on Blu-ray and I forgot about it. So. And I did not.
We'll talk about it next time then.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not. From what I remember, we don't have a whole lot to say. But I think it's time that we go on to shelf or box.
Yeah.
And I'll go first. We'll start with a negative. So I loved this fucking movie when I saw it in theaters. I thought it was one of the best movies. I've had nothing but fond memories of it. And for some reason, when I watched it this time, I enjoyed it, but it didn't grab me the way Captain America grabbed me when we just watched that a couple weeks ago. And that's when I really realized, I'm like, oh, like this is not what I remember. This is not as amazing, as great as it didn't make me feel that same way. So I mean that was something that kind of hit me a little bit, where this is going to go in the box, which I can't believe I'm saying. I'm putting Avengers in the fucking box.
Wow, that's okay.
It didn't do it for me. It's still a good movie. It's still better than Hulk. It's still better than Iron Man 2 and Iron Man, maybe not better than Iron Man 1, but it's just something. I think part of it is also that I have a really hard time when heroes fight each other. Like it really, really bothers me. But and like I actually saw my Facebook post from 5 or 8 years ago when I saw this movie. I was like, man, Avengers is amazing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, 2012 Mike. I'm sorry we had to erase that memory for you. But going in the box, I'm glad I watched it. Highly recommend it. Also, I think another reason why I didn't enjoy it as much, my Disney Plus copy that I was watching kept freezing on me over 10 times throughout me trying to watch this movie. So that could be
Disney
playing
Plus?
a small part. I don't know.
Maybe you need to like delete the app and re-download it or something.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it works. But
Call tech support.
So yeah, but I'm glad. So how about you, Bill?
So for me, I had a very similar experience the first time I saw it. I adored it. I thought I've seen it multiple times since 2012. I really, upon this viewing, I think I did like it a little less, but I still found it to be extremely enjoyable. And as a launch pad for the entire MCU and the Avengers experience, it's excellent. It does a great job of developing some characters. The action scenes are, for the most part, well done. They're not exhausting. Even the final 30-minute, explosion, crumbling building fest still has a lot of variety and interest. A lot of this movie lived and died back in the day on its quirk, right? On that Joss Whedon quirk we've been talking about, those jips and those quips and all those funny little things that were in there. Those, again, back in the day were novel. They are no longer novel, and they've actually aged like milk. However, it really I
think that's the third time we brought up that analogy in this series.
It's literally one of my favorite analogies.
It's so good.
Like, I'll just pick another one. But for me, so it basically a lot of those jokes for me though this time around were like pepper, were like the seasoning on the cake. So I think the cake of this movie is actually very good. Again, I think Mark Ruffalo is phenomenal in his role. Like I've said 100 times already, best actor on the screen when he's there. Again, except for Hawkeye's just a bore, but we've already established that. He can just leave him possessed by Loki and let him carry off with him. But really, the pepper and that salt that's on top of this cake, that is what people either really love or really hate. For me, I actually found it charming. I did find it charming, even though it was dated and a lot of it didn't work anymore. I could totally see why you would think that's annoying. So that's, I think, the teeter-totter this movie lives on. For me, it lives on charming. I still found it charming. So this is going on the shelf. It was on the shelf before, and it's staying on the shelf. I'm glad I dusted it off.
You kept saying it was the pepper, and I kept thinking the character.
I know. I'm sorry.
What's wrong with her?
She's in things, I know, but hey, she's still amazing. She's still amazing.
She's still the pepper on the cake.
And why would you put pepper on a cake? This is ridiculous. I got to think of these things beforehand. Sprinkles. That's the analogy. Sprinkles.
Or frosting.
Or frosting. Why would you put sprinkles on a cake? I got to think of these things before I say them on a radio show. I'm sorry.
Oh man, see, what is different about this viewing than every other viewing? Because like we've all had this like weird negative tint to it. Like, what is different about this movie than was different 8 years ago?
One, we're doing it on a podcast now.
Yeah,
and two, we're watching all of them in order, and we also have seen the end of Infinity Saga.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'll say the third thing, and the third thing too, I would say is we're looking at, like you say, you kind of just said it, Mike. We're looking at it for a purpose. Like we're watching this with a little closer eye than you normally would if you were just sitting back, hanging out, watching this movie. We're taking notes, right? Like I'm taking notes, like I'm scribbling in a notebook, and I'm looking at it from a critical point of view, which is why some of the things may seem nitpicky, but that's just what pops out when you're doing this sort of thing. So
I guess when we watched it in the past, it was fanboys in the theaters like gushing at every little thing on screen.
Yeah, right.
And
you're sitting there with your friends. All. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, man, it still bums me out because like I loved this movie when it came out, and going back to it, it's just like why is it different? Why do things have to change? Like Mike said, it's like I liked having that memory of it being great.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't like a Raccoon City case where Raccoon City was always garbage. It
was always bad. We just didn't know.
We had high feelings of the garbage. I mean, this is a great movie. This wasn't like garbage.
But things like Tony Stark's quips, they were great 4 years ago in Iron Man 1, but in this they felt forced. Like it didn't fit in with the rest of the movie for some reason. So I don't know what it is. Maybe we're just changing as people, God forbid. Having said all that and poo-pooed on this movie for 2 hours, I think I'd still put it on the shelf because it's still like a high benchmark in comic book movies as a whole. Like even if it's not the high point in the MCU it used to be, it's still a great movie and a great comic book movie. And it was easily the best we had at the time.
Yes.
Well, I mean, other than Iron Man 1, but
I mean, it's a sea change, right? This changed how these movies are made. This set the tone for a lot of these things, and I think to your point of changing, that's good. That's good to be changed. Growth is good. We're allowed. It's fine. It's okay to not like things you liked 10 years ago. We don't have to hold on to it. I agree with both
things. I'm not okay that I don't like this movie as much as I used to. I'm not okay with that.
I feel like
I'm really bummed.
This movie was the catalyst to why the DC EU failed, because it had that light, snarky tone and everyone loved it. But there were those fans that are like, why does it have to be so jokey and quippy? It's like, we want action. Give us tone and dark messages and stuff. So the DC EU ran with that, and then it just kind of buried itself in the ground.
And it's all about tone, right? It's all about, and tone is a great way of putting it. It's all about who does it. Not everyone is Christopher Nolan. Not everyone can do the Batman trilogy or Dark Knight trilogy. They can't.
They only made 2 of those movies. How is it a trilogy? It's Batman Begins and Dark Knight.
Yeah, that's all.
We don't recognize the third film in that. I have a story about the third film. I think I barely saw it.
It might be on the show eventually.
Maybe we'll get to that.
We'll get there. I probably should see it again. I saw it in an IMAX theater, but I saw it last minute. I was in the very first row in the very corner.
Oh no!
So I spent the entire movie craning my neck up trying to look at a 80-foot Christian Bale. Yeah, so I did not get the full experience. But anyway, it's about who does it, right? And that's really what it is. I mean, Joss Whedon didn't direct Iron Man 1. Right. So all of those quips and those writing is coming from a different voice, a different directorial voice, which is why directors are super important.
And Joss Whedon really has a certain type of style to him.
Yes. You got to dig what he digs. You got to dig what he does or you don't. And again, a lot of that seasoning is dependent on that.
And also I have a quick question. Do you guys have your phase 1 ranking by any chance? I just put one together just now, and I was thinking about it.
I completely forgot about it.
Forgot.
Okay,
I was just thinking about it. I could do one real quick.
Yeah, if you want to do it real quick, I'm going to talk about something. I'm going to introduce what we're going to be talking about next week or next month or however the hell we do this. So, because we had just finished phase 1, we're going to give you guys a special treat. We're actually going to be releasing an extra episode of this month when you're listening to this. We're going to be covering, because of Mike's suggestion, we're covering Spider-Verse. So,
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, that's okay. That's
the full title.
So we're covering. I have never seen it before, so I'm excited to finally watch it. And then after that, the following month, you're going to get Iron Man 3. So we decided the best way to watch Iron Man 3 is to watch 2 great movies, then watch Iron Man 3 and Thor: Dark World. That's the way you do it.
Try to cushion the blow.
And and then before we do wrap this episode, I do want to say my MCU ranking real quick that I put together of just the first phase 1. I'm going to start doing this each phase. I think now that we're planning this, each phase we'll write down where we're at with the ranking, and then we'll do a final ranking when we finish the Infinity Saga. But I currently have my number 1, Captain America: The First Avenger, then Iron Man, then Thor, then Avengers, Iron Man 2, and then Hulk.
Wow, Thor above Avengers.
I really like Thor.
I guess.
That was so good.
Wow, that was very dismissive. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Dismissive, but that was funny.
Again, 2012 Mike, or hell, Mike, 2019 Mike would hell, even 2020 of March Mike would have put Avengers higher than this list before I started rewatching all these movies. Also before I rewatched Avengers 2 days ago. Bill, were you able to put one together quick?
Yeah, I was. It's 6 movies, right? I didn't miss one.
6 movies.
Okay. Yeah, so I got Iron Man as number 1. I have Avengers number 2. I really do. I got a lot of heart for it. Captain America number 3, Thor 4, Iron Man 2, 5, and Hulk 6. I think we're all going to have the same bottom 2, but
for now, not when we finish phase 2. I can tell you that. Or no, not when we finish phase. There'll be a certain point where Hulk will not be on my bottom list.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah. Mike?
Iron Man, Avengers, Iron Man 2, Captain America, Thor, Hulk.
Wow, Iron Man 2, huh?
I like how we're all Hulk though.
Yeah, we're all Hulk at the bottom.
Hulk's goofy. Yeah, I like Iron Man 2. It's like it's still got its moments.
I really liked Iron Man 2 before I rewatched it for the show.
I forgot to mention that during this viewing of Avengers, like it made me appreciate Captain America more than First Avenger did. Like Captain America was my favorite character of this viewing of this movie. Like everything he does is awesome.
Yeah.
I think my favorite character of this first phase is still gonna be Iron Man. I like Captain America a lot more this time around. I get him more now. I never really got him. Like, I don't know why people like him so much. I get it. But I still like Iron Man's his Tony Stark's wit and his humor, his moxie and his complexity, which most important. I think he's a very complex character. I think he's interesting. I think he's a person who's constantly being torn between a person he wants to be, which is the playboy millionaire, I don't give a shit character, and an actual hero. And those two sides are always pulling at him in different directions. And I think it's interesting. And Captain America is not as interesting, but he's still pretty great as a paragon of idealism and heroism and the good old American dream, as they say. So
I guess it's kind of telling that Iron Man still has one more solo movie, which, oh God, we'll get to that. But the other 2 Captain America movies are like Avengers Light. It's not just about him.
Yes.
It's him with everyone else.
I wouldn't say so much for the second one. The third one, 100%. Second one, not as much.
We'll get there. We're not far off.
We will get there. So next is Spider-Verse.
Next is Spider-Verse.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm looking forward to it.
I haven't either. I've been purposely waiting, so I'm excited. And then we're going to cover Iron Man 3. So, and Spider-Verse is going to be a bonus for you guys. So because my goal is to start releasing more episodes every month. So by the time you get to hearing this, which might be September, it's going to be time to start cranking out more.
Hopefully the world's awake by then.
I'll be awake. I mean, we're all going to be wearing masks. We're all going to be superheroes. Like, I will be wearing a Zelda mask at this time, most likely, because I just ordered one that should be coming in the mail because my job made it mandatory to wear masks now in May of 2020, which I'm okay. I understand.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't like it, but I understand it.
Hopefully we won't need the Avengers at our doorsteps for real, protecting us from murder hornets, infection, and I don't know. I think next is going to be a plague of boils and frogs raining from the skies. So we'll see. Hey, September us. Let us know if we're wrong.
I hope when the audience hears this, they're laughing and be like, "Oh man, they're blowing this way out of proportion."
I mean, 2020 had just like there's a meme that I had saved. There's an Ant-Man meme that I keep seeing people bring up and see if I can find it real quick. I've seen multiple different ones, but one of my favorite ones is how was 2020? Oh, World War III almost started, and Australia was on fire, and then this killer virus spread and stopped the whole world, but we got $1,200.
We got Animal Crossing.
I mean, thank God, wasting our time. That's right. People love
2020.
it.
This is May 2020, by the way, that we're recording this. Won't be May you're listening to this, but when we're recording. So I think that's about all I need to say. Well, I do need to give a quick shout out to our awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Paul, aka Mike Stoney from his EP Bite the Bullet. Song is the Cool Kid Squad. Also, as you are listening, we have already done the other 5 previous MCU movies, so please check those out if you haven't listened to those yet. We also do games every month. We do every week, I should say. We do comics every month. And at the time you're listening, there's probably 2 comics a month. So definitely go check out all our previous episodes. We have tons and tons of content for you to listen to keep you active when you're driving to work, or you're going through maybe the screenings we're gonna have to go through where we get detox every day to go into work. If that comes,
jeez,
who knows where we're going. So hey, listen to our episode. We love, and also I'm trying to say every episode, if you're still listening, please tell someone, send out a tweet, send out a Facebook post, let people know that you enjoy this show, that you enjoy Game My Mom Phone, because even that little thing, just letting someone know, recommending us to somebody, does a lot to help us out and get us more listens and help us do more with this show eventually. I have big plans, but I need to eventually have the show make money so I can put more money into the show. So let people know. All right, and I think that's about wraps up this Avenger episode. Hey, this episode actually ended up being shorter than Captain America, I think.
Wow.
We went on less tangents, so we're like more focused on the movie.
And we didn't talk about World War II for an hour.
Yeah, that's fair.
And we also didn't dwell on the half an hour end scene. We didn't like dissect every little punch and kick. We just went, people thought.
Yeah.
That's the right way to
smash,
do it, though.
And it's done.
So, and we also didn't cover the short because we forgot it existed.
I will bust out the DVD, the Blu-ray post haste, and watch this for next time.
All right, we'll see everybody next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.